and 107.5 The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB, WIBC HD3 W228CX, Indianapolis.
One more knee will do it. The Philadelphia Eagles are going back to the Super Bowl.
8 seconds left and a 45-yard attempt by Harrison Butker. Here's Butker for 45 yards. All the way. It's good.
Stage is set, Kevin. And the first thing that I thought as Cincinnati went down in what was really an entertaining game, a lot of drama at the end, and Arrowhead after a kind of a fizzle of the NFC Championship game between Philadelphia and San Francisco. But this is the world that we live in for the 2023 football coverage in the city of Indianapolis, and that is, okay, so that means who's available now to talk win in terms of the Colts head coaching search with the Super Bowl set between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. That means what guys suddenly are available and what guys all of a sudden are the Colts like, we got to talk now or else hold our peace for another 2 weeks.
You know, it's funny. That was certainly one of the thoughts I had yesterday watching the games unfold. The other thought I had, Jake, was, is this how the rest of the AFC felt watching Manning and Brady for all those years?
Yep.
And now is this the reality for Colts fans for the next, 5 to 10 years? I mean, Patrick Mahomes' resume, 5 years into his NFL career, 6 years into his NFL career is right up there with anybody in league history. And Joe Burrow, of course, was right there, potentially going to a Super Bowl for the second straight year, the only 2 years he's been healthy in the league after tearing his ACL his first year. But yes, like you said, the Colts got the result that they wanted, I think, yesterday, just from the fact that San Francisco lost. So if they wanted to, or I guess I should say, if DeMeco Ryans wants to, he can meet with the Colts today, but it sounds like Houston is the overwhelming favorite for his head coaching candidacy, and he's already met with the Texans. So all four coaches that were coaching in yesterday's conference championship game, Shane Steichen with the Eagles, the offensive coordinator, that interview reportedly will happen early this week with the Colts. And then we'll see about the others. Eric Bieniemy, of course, the OC with the Chiefs. Brian Callahan, the OC with the Bengals. Again, Bieniemy and Steichen, they're coaching the Super Bowl, but you can still meet with them this week because you originally had a first interview with them earlier this month.
But Ryans, because they have not met with Ryans, right?
They have not met with him, but their season's over.
But of course now he's done,
matter.
So it doesn't matter, right? But Ryans, to me, like, for example, moot point, had San Francisco won yesterday, then the Colts still would have had, like, what, a 2-day window to get to Ryans? Otherwise, it was afterwards?
No, they could not. If San Francisco would have won, the earliest they could have talked with him is the day
after the Super Bowl. Yeah. Ryans, to me, has always felt like Houston was the inevitable spot.
Yeah, I want to say Denver also has been, rumored with him, but a couple of names that I think is a bit of a surprise for the Colts in the second interview list. We'll chat about that today, but obviously a ton to get to on this Monday morning. Good Monday morning to you. Kevin Bowen, Jay Query, Mark Dykton. I thought walking out to the car, I thought it looked a little slick, but
was it slushy to you? It was a little bit like...
It just had the glossy look,
yes.
But I didn't really encounter anything too slippery.
I just noticed walking out, I'm like, wait a minute, like there was like some kind of crunchy noise.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, there wasn't any windshield
salt?
scraping necessary. Maybe it was salt, actually, now that you mention it. But nonetheless, a good weekend of sports and a lot to talk about over the course of the week, including the Pacers, which Tony East will join us in today's program at 8:30. Bob Kravitz going to join us today as well. So there's Pacers news to talk about. Obviously, the season getting away from them a little bit. College basketball yesterday, that was as good a performance as you're going to find from Zach Edey. Interesting. Somebody texted me yesterday during the game and said, when is the last time the state of Indiana had arguably the two best college basketball players at the same time playing in it? With Edey and Trace Jackson Davis.
Boy, that's a great point.
And I said, you know what? It'd have to be 93 when Calbert Chaney was the College Player of the Year and Glenn Robinson was in his first year at Purdue and won the College Player of the Year the next year. I mean, those two guys were unbelievable. I mean, Weber was in there as well.
You could argue the two hottest teams in college basketball right now, too.
Yeah. Indiana, I mean.
Indiana, that's 5 in a row, 4 of them by double digits. And then, of course, Purdue, having only lost 1 game all year. I tweeted this out late on Saturday, Jake. For my generation, and I'm 33, you eliminate whatever the first 6 or 7 years that you have very little recollection of anything in the sports world. We're going to get a ranked matchup Saturday night, or Saturday afternoon, I should say, in Assembly Hall, 4 o'clock tip. Those don't happen often for my generation with Indiana and Purdue. And, this is what I love about college sports. This is what you're never going to be able to replicate if you are, IMG Academy to the G League Ignite or whatever your path is going to be to the NBA. That environment will be absolutely deafening inside of Assembly Hall. And obviously Mackey will get its chance to experience that later in the month of February. But what just an awesome matchup. Indiana, I assume, will be ranked when the polls come out later today.
Should be. And Purdue might be the unanimous number 1 at this point, right?
So we'll get ranked matchups coming up. But yeah, Zach Edey, man. I mean, you put Tom Izzo in some sort of top 3, top 5 list of best coaches in college basketball? In the 2 matchups this year against Michigan State, Zach Edey, 70 points and 26 rebounds.
Decent,
those
right?
are video. That is Shaquille O'Neal video game type numbers. And I thought the stat that stood out to me the most about Edey yesterday, obviously 38 and 12. But Jake, he doesn't have a single turnover in 32 minutes. How often do you see a ball thrown to a big guy and he just fumbles it one time?
He doesn't get in foul trouble, and he doesn't turn the ball over.
It is absolutely remarkable what he's doing, and again, what Trace Jackson Davis is doing, and even when Trace has kind of a quiet night for him, I mean, hell, he still had a double-double. I almost feel unfair calling it quiet. Jalen Hood-Schifino looks like a first-round pick, so cannot wait for 4 o'clock on Saturday.
Did you have a good weekend? Anything fun?
We did. Yeah, nothing too crazy. Kids were, at this point, and Mark can probably speak to this, you're just happy when the kids are healthy and not snotting and coughing.
Oh, for sure, especially this time of year.
Yeah, it was good. How about you?
It was good. I caught a bunch of heat because I sent a tweet. I think sometimes people, and I get it, people take things a little too literally. Butler got beat, and I sent a tweet that just said, because I've said this a lot on the show, it's kind of like I just said, Butler never should have left the Atlantic 10. And then I get people that are like, you're not looking at the overall prestige of the conference and the money it brings in for the rest of the university, and this is such a myopic thing to think only about men's basketball, and you're not thinking about the fact the literature department. I get all that. I get it. I know they had to join the Big East. I get it. But doesn't that make, isn't that kind of just a sports-ism? You know what I mean? Gosh, I never should have left the A-10. It was such a good league. Da, da, da. I get it. You've got to be in the Big East. The money's there. The prestige, it is. It just felt to me like the A-10 was a better fit for them.
So you were dealing with that?
I was dealing with that. But we went to, actually went to dinner Saturday night at the Bulldog. And it was great. And it was great. It was
right
packed.
in my neck of the woods.
It was great. It was fun. It was packed. Everybody, the IU game was just starting.
It's a great spot.
Stopped on the way home. Been a long time since I've gone to the old pros table and just sat right by the fire.
Nice.
Sat there, had a PBR, as a matter of fact, on draft. And then headed home. Yesterday, though, I thought you kind of felt for San Francisco, didn't you? I mean, gosh darn it, I'll give him credit. I mean, they went out there and they did the best they could with literally the guy, the quarterback with the longest resume in the history of the National Football League.
Former Colt, Josh Johnson.
Former everywhere. I mean, that everybody saw that list of Josh Johnson's teams of service. It really is incredible.
Yeah, the backup to Matt Hasselbeck for, I think it was 2 games in 2015 when Andrew Luck first had those shoulder issues. I mean, again, it was only, 8 or 9 minutes, but I felt like Philly had already kind of cemented themselves as the lead team of that matchup. Hurts made that incredible play on 4th down, and I get that it probably would have been overruled, but that's part of the NFL kind of chess match game of when those plays happen. Devontae Smith was, doing the hand motion right after that big 4th down catch. They ran up there. And I don't know, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but you guys have heard me say that I think having kind of that CEO type coach, the one that is not overly involved with play calling on either side of the ball, I think is such an advantage. You see San Francisco not challenge that play, and I don't know, maybe Shanahan was paying plenty of attention, just didn't get a great look from his replay booth. But then you see Philadelphia on the Brock Purdy injury play, they challenged that. And Hassan Reddick was, of course, going nuts. But Nick Sirianni, a guy that does not call plays, those two plays obviously stand out as huge. I thought they should have gone straight McCaffrey, Debo, Samuel, Wildcat.
I mean, that's hard to argue after a certain point, right? The Super Bowl itself, in your opinion, the favorite is who? I don't mean necessarily the point spread, but just the team that, a lot of times one of the two teams in the Super Bowl, you're like, yeah, they kind of felt like they backed their way, or you know what I mean? Like things went their way. Yeah. This feels like.
I thought it would be Pick'em. I'm a little surprised that Philly is already a 2-point favorite. I mean, based off just what the results were or the Vegas spreads were for the AFC NFC Championship game. But, when you look at Philly, Jake, you also forget, Jalen Hurts was out for 2 of their 3 losses. And when they've had Hurts, they're like 13-1.
Yeah.
14-1. So, obviously, tons of storylines. You get the 2 number 1 seeds facing off with each other. And, watching Kansas City that play out yesterday, what Chris Jones did in the fourth quarter, and, Harrison Butker makes a 45-yard field goal. Obviously, the penalty helps them out there. But it was kind of the 180 of when the Colts played the Chiefs earlier this year. Chris Jones makes the boneheaded penalty in the fourth quarter of that game to really keep the Colts' chances alive.
Right.
And then remember all the kicking issues Kansas City had in that one? Butker was hurt, so they had a new kicker, and he doinked one, and then Andy Reid went for it like in a 30-some-yard field goal range. Just obviously a totally different result from yesterday. It's kind of wild to think the Colts beat the Chiefs and almost beat the Eagles.
I thought the final play that really put, obviously, Kansas City into field goal range, right?
Yeah, the scramble and then the penalty.
So, and everybody saw it. If you're unaware of it, Mahomes is scrambling. He's hobbled, obviously. He's just about to step out of bounds. He gets both feet clearly out of bounds, and then Joseph Osai just comes barreling in and pushes him down, and then himself twists his ankle. I actually thought when I saw it in real time, and this wasn't the case, I don't think, in hindsight, but when I saw it, I thought he actually was falling. I thought Osai was losing his balance because of the twisted ankle and fell into Mahomes. Like it was, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't intentional. Then I saw the replay and I'm like, yeah, it was blatant. You feel for the guy.
10 out of 10 times.
No question. You feel for the guy, but it's like, yeah, man, he was literally a foot and a half out of bounds.
And obviously you hate to see, again, I agree with the call, but you hate to see it come down to that point. Obviously hell of a scramble by Mahomes. Certainly he was limping at various moments throughout the game, but boy, I thought he made so many plays when he got outside of the pocket. And that was, I think, a huge question you had of how limited he would be. So Chiefs and Eagles from Arizona coming up here in a couple of weeks. Jake, Myles Turner wakes up today a pretty happy man.
Myles Turner, and I'm telling you, this is the perfect situation for the Pacers because they basically bought themselves time. Kind of what it feels like, too.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to look at it.
They bought themselves time to figure this out and to come up with, hey, we know that we'd like Myles Turner to be here, but we've got to figure out what other pieces we still need to add and subtract and whatever else. And this gives us 2 more years to get it done, and then we'll see where the chips fall.
As you mentioned, Tony East going to join us at 8:30, so we'll get into kind of the nuts and bolts of this renegotiation and extension for Myles Turner. Bob Kravitz, who I think kind of hand raised in the air with his latest column about, and these are his words, being wrong on Myles Turner. My worry with giving Turner a big extension was 4 years for $100 million. This is nowhere near that. So I think kind of buying them time is a good way to put it. And again, it's very disappointing to me, the lack of development you've seen from the young big guys, to where I almost felt like you were kind of backed into a corner with Turner and gosh, boy, you don't feel comfortable with Isaiah Jackson or Jalen Smith or Goga giving them serious minutes. But basically what it is with Turner is the Pacers were well under the salary cap for this season, and they obviously could have used that coming up at the trade deadline a week from Thursday. What they decided to do was renegotiate Turner for this year. So that bumps his salary up $17 million for this year. Myles Turner makes $35 million for this year, which frankly is absolutely absurd when you compare him to other people making that money. But you've got the money, you might as well use it. The next 2 years, though, Jake, he's making $19 and $20 million, which is very manageable for a player of his importance to this team. He'll be 29 years old when he hits free agency again. You got to think he'll be highly motivated, of course, to cash in one more time. And again, you just don't have many other options, if any options, on your team that if you were to let him go, and again, you would have gotten something in return for him, you would have had a big hole at the starting 5 spot.
I have felt for a while that the number one bonus or intrigue or storyline for the Pacers brass when it comes to Tyrese Halliburton is that they have been fascinated by, intrigued by how Myles Turner would benefit. I think Myles Turner is... You ever know anybody that you went to high school with, or for that matter, a friend of yours today who might have kids that aren't bad kids? They have kids, that not bad kids at all, but like they're still trying to find themselves. And it's like, yeah, they Jim enrolled in a new program at school, and we're really optimistic because he really likes this, and we think this might have, he might have found something here that he likes, and we're really hoping this gets him on the right path, and he starts to get a little bit of motivation. Myles Turner isn't that guy where he needed motivation and that kind of a thing. But in terms of what they knew Myles Turner could be as a player, the Pacers have been searching for that pairing, that match, that player that can invigorate in him the consistency that they need from an offensive standpoint in particular. And when they saw Tyrese Halliburton's skill set, I think they were extremely intrigued by and fascinated by, whoa, what can this guy do for Myles Turner's game? And before we send Myles Turner to Goodwill, we need to make sure one more time that like this doesn't work perfectly. And then literally it was, okay, we have something here because it paired very well with Halliburton. So I think that's what they have wanted to see. They liked what they saw in that pairing, and they've decided that's what they're going to build off of. But they had to make sure that they had the flexibility to still be able to add those auxiliary parts, and this is done in a way that allows them that flexibility.
Technically, they can still trade Turner. Again,
correct. That's the other interesting curveball to this.
We'll get more into this with Tony East coming up at 8:30, but I think there are some people around the league that all of a sudden see Turner under contract for the next couple of seasons, and now they're like, oh, Indiana's kind of done our dirty work. They've already gotten the extension done with Turner. Now you know what you're getting. There's not the uncertainty of, hey, you're getting an expiring contract. Are you going to be able to retain him or not? Again, I don't think that's necessarily Indiana's mindset with this. I think the Pacers want to keep him, but it is something to point out. So press conference later today for Myles Turner to put pen to paper. The Pacers actually have 3 days off, which I guess that means they can't lose again in the next 3 days, which they've done a lot of losing here as of late. Friday night, it was typical. Awful start. Couldn't come back. Gave up a franchise record 85 points in the first half of the Bucks. And then yesterday, it was the reverse. They actually got off to a great start in Memphis. Memphis had lost 5 in a row. I had no idea that the Grizzlies had been struggling like that. And then the Pacers with an awful third quarter. So what, they've lost 9 of 10? Is that what it is?
Yeah. That halftime of that game, by the way, Friday night against Memphis. The talk, or excuse me, against Milwaukee. The talk was, oh my gosh, we've got to stay here because like we're going to see a 185-point game.
Yeah.
NBA record here coming. Their last, so they obviously beat Chicago on last Tuesday. Their last win prior to that, January 9th or January 8th. So they're on a heck of a slide here, right?
And the road slide continues. It's December 23rd. So no games again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's a back-to-back Lakers and Kings. LeBron is sitting out tonight in Brooklyn. So the LeBron potential to break the scoring record on Thursday night looks to be a big-time long shot with that one. Tyrese Halliburton still out. I think Rick Carlisle said before the game on Sunday, we'll confirm this with Tony East coming up, the hope is for Halliburton to play this weekend. You would think in Halliburton's case he circles that Kings game on the calendar. I mean, he really struggled in the first matchup with Sacramento out there. But we'll see, because this weekend, again, it's Lakers and Kings back-to-back Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday they play the Cavs.
Now, the Cavs game, because they still hold Cleveland's first overall or number one pick, right?
Yeah, as long as Cleveland makes the playoffs.
You got to, well, see, there's your catch-22, right?
Well, I think at this point, Jake, I don't want to speak for all Pacers fans, but at this point, I think you want the Pacers to miss the playoffs.
No, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair. But what I'm saying is you want...
Cleveland's fifth, by the way.
Yeah, so you want Cleveland...
2.5 or 3.5, it looks like, up on the play-in.
I mean, your pick from Cleveland there is going to be what, like the 25th pick? Yeah.
But I think right now, again, Indiana's 11th, so they're not even in the play-in with this recent skid. You've got to take the 3 picks you're likely going to have. Your own, which right now I think is like 8 or 9, Cleveland's pick, Boston's pick, and you try and move up higher in the lottery. Because if you trade those picks or trade one of them, I mean, Jake, you could be sitting there with like the 4th pick. That'd be great.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
draft the best 3-man or 4-man in the draft.
They need 6 wins of those remaining here, Kev. I know. We're gonna do this real quick. You ready?
I know.
We'll do it. We'll
starting to sweat a little bit.
Do it in groups of 5. You just tell me how many are in that
I would
group.
just like 2 or 3 before the
deadline.
Okay,
here we go. Lakers, just yes or no, quick. Lakers, yo. Lakers at home.
I don't think so.
Okay, Sacramento at home.
No,
Cleveland at home.
No.
At Miami.
No.
Phoenix at home.
Yes.
At Washington.
Yes.
Utah at home.
Ooh, 2 of those 3. Two of those 3.
Okay, Chicago at home.
3 of those 4.
Boston at home.
No.
At Orlando.
Yes.
At Dallas.
No.
At San Antonio.
Yes.
At Chicago.
Maybe. I feel like we got to be close, right?
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. There you go. That gets you there right there. That gets you there by March 5th.
Yeah, I thought, at one point I was thinking, boy, is this going to happen by like February 1st? Now I'm like, is it going to happen by St. Patrick's Day? Because if we get to Earth Day, I'm screwed.
It will be pretty awesome if it happens on, let's see. Now, they play at Milwaukee on the 16th. I don't think they'll win that game, but if that was number 30, then what a St. Patrick's Day we'd have. You're buying the PBR for everybody.
I was going to say, well, Myles Turner can buy 1 keg and I'll buy the other one. How about that?
Okay.
Jonathan Taylor, ankle surgery. That news came out yesterday. Said that it's been something he's just kind of dealt with for the last couple of years. I mentioned this when Taylor went down late in the season, Jake. I'm curious how this injury would impact contract negotiations for him. Again, I don't think it will, knowing Chris Ballard, but I think it's something you have to acknowledge. And I know not all injury situations are the same, but if a player is going to have off-season surgery, get it done in January. I felt like one of the biggest mistakes in the Andrew Luck situation was they elected for rehab and not surgery in that first off-season he got hurt. And look at Shaquille Leonard last year. He doesn't have back surgery till June. Well, when you do that, I mean, hell, you're jeopardizing the season. And we saw that with Leonard. So Jonathan Taylor, ankle surgery, I think it was last Wednesday. And again, he's going into the final year of his rookie deal.
So who is in and who might be out with the Colts head coaching search? We'll get into that just about 10 or 15 minutes from now. When we return, we'll get you caught up on everything that happened in the world of sports over the weekend and last night on this Monday edition, an hour before Tony East joins us. It's Kevin and Query, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
They're being thorough, and I get it.
The amount of candidates.
13 different people.
Head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
It's been a bit underwhelming around here with the coaching search.
What are we up to numbers-wise now? 16?
Who could be next?
If Jeff Saturday is the hire.
I don't think I'm ready to go that far just yet.
Brian Callahan. Raheem Morris.
Any way that Saturday's not going to be in Final Five?
Your home for Colts football is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
Imagine the possibilities of getting the backyard of your dreams. Expand your living space with an Indie Decorative Concrete patio. Indie Decorative Concrete, the patio experts.
So, the other day, I bought an extremely chatty...
Boring story time.
Make that an extremely catty cockatoo.
You're welcome.
Apparently, the pet store won't take it back. But hey, I'll manage.
I love that for you.
Just like I manage without home internet.
No, you don't.
Sure, my mobile hotspot is slow and makes streaming shows unbearable.
Aw, Bertie likes to stream.
But I'm making do. Oh no, who's this?
My lady friend. It's mating season, duh.
No home internet? It's not that bad. No, not there.
It is that bad. Don't settle. Switch to Xfinity and get one line of unlimited mobile and home internet together for $50 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Go to Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit your local Xfinity store today. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account. Equipment tax and fees extra. Reduced speeds after 20 gigabytes of data usage. Offer ends 3/21/23.
For adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy, now there's Skyrizi, Risankizumab Rizza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months, and Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Nothing and me go hand in hand. Nothing on my skin, that's my new plan. Nothing is everything.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms, such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
With Skyrizi, you could achieve 90% clearer skin. Ask your doctor about the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis and visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Hey, it's JMV for the absolute best in realty. Mark Dietel Realty. 317-755-4232. That's 317-755-4232. MarkDietel.com. MarkDietel.com. Today, nobody does it better than Mark. In fact, he's going to give you this guarantee, an offer within 3 days, full market value, or he's going to list it for free. Think about this for a moment. Judy in Greenfield was moving out of town and needed to sell fast. Also needed all the equity for the new place. So what happened? Went with the best. That's Mark Dietel of Mark Dietel Realty. Got the job done once again. Just like with Judy, Mark will get it done for you. That's Mark Dietel of Mark Dietel Realty. 317-755-4232. That's 317-755-4232. Online, markdietel.com. That's MarkDietel.com today.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. You're driving along and some nimrod cuts you off. You hit the horn. Jeez, it sounds like a goose in distress. Time to head over to eBay Motors. They have horns for every make and model, not to mention horn pads, steering wheels, wiring, and more. 122 million parts. You can even go for an upgrade. It looks like Mr. Cutoff Man needs a new seat cover. Try eBay Motors, pal. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP Extended Life oil filter for only $38.99. Go farther with better fuel efficiency. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
It's the final days to save big store-wide at the Truckload event at Lowe's. Right now, get limited-time deals on your favorite tools and accessories. Plus, get 10% off in-stock kitchen cabinets with a $1,000 minimum purchase. And save even more on clearance cabinets in-store. Hurry and shop the Truckload event in-store or online while you can. Must ask cashier to apply discount at time of purchase. Exclusions apply while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. About 126 through 28.
Hey, it's JMV. Sometimes accidents happen. Truck wrecks, car wrecks, motorcycle wrecks that just shouldn't have happened. It can mean dealing with a lot of pain, broken bones, surgeries, PT, extended medical care, even death. All of which can also add up to catastrophic harm. That's where personal injury attorney John McLaughlin at Parr Ritchie can help. John is recognized in Indiana Super Lawyer magazine as an injury attorney. It's worth a free call to see if John can help you. 317-269-2509 or visit parrinjury.com. That's PARR injury.com.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Jake, the month of February is here, and is about to be here, and Zach Edey is the overwhelming favorite for National Player of the Year. A career high yesterday for Zach Edey. I thought he was going for 40 at one point. Ended up with 38 and 12 as Purdue absolutely rolls Michigan State 77-61. I thought Purdue, again, got some nice support in the first half. David Jenkins continuing to shoot the basketball pretty well as of late. Really key for them. And, of course, Edey just speaks for itself. So Purdue will maintain that number one ranking. Here was Matt Painter yesterday on being number one.
I hope it's happening. You got to show some discipline and not listen to what people say, because success messes with you more than failure. Failure always just corrects you. You realize that you lost by a basket. Now everything you did wrong gets magnified. You win by a basket. You don't magnify those things, and that's why coaches do. That's why people think coaches are crazy, because now you've won a game and you've made mistakes and you're on them about stuff because one or more of those mistakes could have led to that loss. But you don't digest it that way, and fans don't digest it that way. We can do everything the same and be one possession less, and then all of a sudden they'll ask you, what's your problem? If you can take that noise and take that rhetoric out of your thinking and just worry about what people say in your locker room, you're going to be more successful, you're going to have that good headspace, and you're going to have more fun. If you're always trying to please people that really don't exist and you don't know, that gets to be really hard.
Wednesday, Purdue taking on Penn State at Mackey, and then Saturday, the big showdown at Indiana in Bloomington on the 4th. Elsewhere, by the way, Cleveland State 78-72 over IUPUI. Jags now 3-20, 0-12 in the conference.
Speaking of IU, 86-70 over Ohio State on Saturday night. It was a huge run to end the first half. Jalen Hood-Schifino, absolutely outstanding. 24 points, 6 of 9 from behind the arc. IU has a 5-game win streak. First time they've had that in the Big Ten since 2016. 4 of those 5 by double digits. Jake, that's got to be one of the best runs Indiana's had in the Big Ten, in decades.
I did see one writer who covers Indiana, understandably, yesterday said a lot of people thought Indiana's season was teetering. I'm guilty as charged. I was one of them, right? But now they're healthy, and they're the most dangerous team in the Big Ten. And I'm like, are they the most dangerous team, though? They're very good.
It's either them or Purdue.
I would think the team that has won 20 games already is ranked number 1 in the country and has a guy dropping 38 and 13 might be considered more dangerous, right?
Yeah, I certainly would put IU in the category of we are now seeing why second weekend team was talked about a whole lot. And we'll see what happens if, when Xavier Johnson gets back in the lineup here, potentially in the month of February. But with Hood-Schifino doing that, obviously the attention Trace Jackson Davis is getting, and in particular at Assembly Hall, they're getting more support from those other guys. It'll be at Maryland tomorrow for IU, and then, of course, 4 o'clock on Saturday, hosting Purdue.
Pacers over the weekend got off to a rough start with, as we talked about, Milwaukee scoring 97 points in a quarter. Not really, but it felt like that. Pacers losing to Milwaukee Friday night, 141-131, and then yesterday at Memphis, 112-100. The Grizz on top. So Pacers return back then Thursday against the Lakers. LeBron James right now listed as out with an ankle injury. He's kind of at the age where he's always day-to-day, right? But remains to be seen whether or not James will be playing in that game in Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Is that a Carmel Pups game, Kevin?
Yeah, I'd say Steph Curry's more of a Carmel Pups game, but there will be some pups in the house that night.
Wearing their LeBron stuff?
Wearing the jacket. Yeah.
Actually,
did you see the jackets? I think the Bengals had a jacket on the sideline with the captain on the actual jacket. Kind of reminded me of the C for the Carmel Pups.
You like those Carmel? Were you a Carmel Pup?
Oh no, scissors.
Excuse me?
Scissors cut.
You got cut from the Carmel Pups?
Oh yeah.
I didn't know they cut.
Oh, they're
they made an exception.
They're
we don't normally do this, son.
Yeah.
You need to sit out a little bit.
Right. Now, can you fund some of the jerseys or anything like that? No. Okay. Well,
were you a good athlete? I know you were a state champion golfer, but
meh. Very meh.
Okay. Mark, were you a good athlete?
I was all right.
Okay.
How about yourself? A North Central Panther?
I never met a shot I didn't like.
Green light special?
Absolutely.
That's Benedict Mathurin right now. 5 straight for him with at least 20 off the bench. That's about the only positive right now for the Pacers as they are reeling big time.
Do you like that song, Reelin' in the East? Isn't that how it goes?
Can't say I'm too familiar
I don't know.
with it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
In the East.
Chiefs and Eagles Super Bowl coming up in 2 weeks in Arizona. The first game was pretty ugly yesterday with Philly pulling away the Brock Purdy injury, the Josh Johnson injury. Purdy said afterwards he could not throw the ball further than 5 to 10 yards. Was the screen pass the only one he threw?
I think so, yeah.
Again, I thought they should have just gone full Wildcat in that one. Eagles' defensive line was tremendous. And then in the nightcap, it was Kansas City. A Harrison Butker field goal from 45 yards out. Pretty much at the buzzer. Wins that one over Cincy. I think we finally saw yesterday just that patchwork Bengals offensive line succumb to some of the pressure. I think Burrow was sacked 5 times.
Burrow obviously did not have a lot of time and couldn't really get in rhythm, but he missed some throws too that were and that's not me picking on him. That's uncharacteristic of Joe Burrow, but that would have been, if you were a diehard Bengals fan, that would have been a frustrating game to watch because they just kind of never got going. You know what I mean? Like, you just kept waiting for it to happen. T. Higgins had a hell of a play, but
Jamar Chase, huge play.
Jamar Chase had some big plays as well, yep.
Yeah.
And I thought Mark Dykton, you posted a screen grab of the parlay that you had.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we saw the fella in Rushville that had a parlay in the divisional round where he won $73,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that's what you had in play.
Boy, yeah, you walked in this morning. You fell one leg short of $73,000. I'm like, I wish. No, wasn't that much.
So
$737, not $1,000.
So you had how many things in?
Off.
It was a 5-leg parlay.
Well, what was the guys that?
Hayden Hurst, right? That's who you needed.
But the guy that won $73,000, wasn't his just like a 5 or 16 parlay?
I forget what his was, but I mean, mine wasn't the craziest like long shot odds either. It was like Christian McCaffrey, Jalen Hurts, Boston Scott to all score in the Niners-Eagles game, and they had Travis Kelce, Hayden Hurst to score in the Bengals and Chiefs game.
I thought that guy was the first touchdown score in each game.
No. Oh, yeah, that's what it was.
That's
for him.
Mark's
For him,
was
yeah,
his
not for me. Mine was anytime.
Okay,
His was first
gotcha.
time. That's why his
Gotcha.
odds were so much greater.
Okay.
Was Hurst ever close? I can't recall him ever being that
He
close.
had a couple nice catches. Yeah, they threw it to him one time in the end zone, and it fell incomplete.
Well, on that last drive, I mean, I was like, whoa, wait a minute.
I thought you were you're messing with me because you said like 60-yard touchdown. I thought you like had I was watching on streaming, so I thought you had like an advanced copy of what happened.
No,
and
I
was thoroughly disappointed.
On the final drive, they went to him on back-to-back plays. And I'm
that's what
like, oh,
Ashley
gosh,
said
he's
too.
going to
She's like,
break
oh,
one.
man. But, yeah, wasn't meant to be.
Well, I would have been, if you would just won $737, I'd have been like, who cares? We don't even have to mention that. I thought it was $73,000.
Thanks for that.
Right?
Thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate that.
Coming from at least myself with a big old goose egg in the old account here. So it's going to be a quiet Monday on the basketball world here in Indiana. Myles Turner will have a press conference to announce his contract extension. We'll chat a lot about that with Tony East coming up at 8:30. Bob Kravitz at 9. When we come back, though, we've got some new names on the Colts' second head coach interview list from Friday and over the weekend, and we'll update you on kind of where things stand now that we are down to 2 teams. There's nobody that the Colts are necessarily restricted from talking to based off their original list, and we'll explain that. Coming up next here, Kevin Aquari on a bit of an overcast. It looks a little slick on the roadways. We didn't encounter too much, but I know there were some reports of some ice. Jason tweeted at me, heavy sleet falling west.
It's coming down pretty good right now
in Clayton, so keep an eye on that for your morning commute. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan.
The Pacers are back home to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. Thursday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's the final days to save big store-wide at the Truckload event at Lowe's. Right now, get deals on select major appliances and take home what you buy same day. And save an additional 10% on all in-store clearance appliances. Plus, get savings on even more items across the store, like up to 40% off select bathroom products. Hurry and head to your local Lowe's store or visit Lowe's.com to shop the Truckload event today. Exclusions apply while supplies last. Selection varies by location. See Lowe's.com for details. Valid 1/26 through 2/8.
Let me guess. Unknown caller? You could reduce the number of unwanted calls and emails with online privacy protection. The latest innovation from Discover will help regularly remove your personal info like your name and address, from 10 popular people search websites that could sell your data. And we'll do it for free. Activate in the Discover app. See terms and learn more at discover.com/online privacy protection.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Thinking about gas mileage. You know, changing your oil with a full synthetic oil like Valvoline Advanced can help your engine get more miles. Right now, you can get 5 quarts with an STP extended life oil filter for only $38.99. Go farther with better fuel efficiency. Get the parts you need when you need them at AutoZone or AutoZone.com.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Hey, it's Dan Dockage for Affinity Whole Health. Guys, do something for yourselves. Go to feelgreatindy.com. I'm on a testosterone replacement program with Affinity. Let me tell you, the benefits are amazing. Go to feelgreatindy.com. That's feelgreatindy.com.
If you smell what The Rock is cooking.
Hey, I got some wise words for that Cincinnati mayor. Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Yeah, Travis Kelce certainly never met a Mike he didn't like. It'll be him and his brother facing off in the Super Bowl here coming up in Arizona a week from Sunday. So it was the mayor that dropped the Burrow head comment?
Yeah. He's talking a bunch of trash in his pregame video on Twitter.
So Cleveland native, but went to Cincinnati for college, Travis Kelce. Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, one of the, top 3-4 greatest pass-catching duos in league history?
I'd say so.
Kelce, to me, is so frustrating because, there's a difference between Kelce and Gronkowski. Gronkowski was almost more of a wideout. I mean, he would make plays over the middle, and then, his yards after catch were always amazing. Kelce, as big and as strong as Kelce is, he feels more slippery. In other words, the thing that is so frustrating about Mahomes and Kelce is it's always literally like at the last second when you feel like you are going to throw them for a loss. Mahomes makes one step left or right, finds himself 2 seconds of freedom, and there's Kelce who seemingly was covered the entire play, right? And then, boom, he makes a play for it.
He's
and
pretty elusive.
Yeah.
You saw it on that touchdown. Mahomes rolling out to his right. Not the original necessarily, X and O play design, but yet Kelce was free, and they just have such a great knack for knowing where each other are. Travis Kelce there post-game.
So
afterwards.
I have 2 questions before we get to the Colts coaching search and how this has impacted. I do have 2 questions about the Chiefs in that game yesterday, okay?
Okay.
This always happens with teams, and I've been crushed so many times for saying this about different teams, but inevitably it happens. I recall when Steph Curry first broke into the league, and I remember saying, Steph Curry's kind of like too cool for school thing is eventually going to have the Danica Patrick effect, which is like all of a sudden it goes from a mania about an athlete to a total fatigue where people are like, go away. Go away is by extreme. But where it's just like, okay, I've had enough. They're a little too cocky, that kind of thing. Curry did fall victim to that fatigue, but then came back from it. I mean, he's kind of bounced back.
People ever really say go away to Steph Curry? I feel like he's a really likable star.
Let me finish what I'm saying here. There's no doubt that Curry, when Curry first came into the league and he was chewing the mouthpiece and he was hitting shots all over the place and doing the shimmy thing, everybody loved it. There was a very brief period, and it was pretty brief, but there was a brief period where after they had won a couple of titles, no one said go away to him, but it was starting to become a little less cute. And then he kind of was bailed out by the fact that Draymond Green became the crazy that usurped that, and Steph Curry bounced back from that and is back to being one of the most beloved players in the league, undoubtedly. I think people forget about it, but there was a brief, it was like maybe a season or so where people were just kind of like, he was becoming a rival, right? I guess that's the best way of saying it. He was becoming a rival to a lot of people as opposed to the one that everybody loved. And The NFL, you see it a lot. I think we are naive to it here because Peyton Manning and the Colts were the American team for a dozen years, but there were people outside of Indianapolis that probably got tired of hearing about Peyton Manning and Reggie Wayne and whatever else because they were there every year. Are we starting to get that with Kansas City? I don't mean with Patrick Mahomes or even Kelce's that's his MO. But like it feels like the Chiefs are starting to chirp an awful lot. And like there are people that are going to be like, these guys, can somebody please just take them off of their pedestal? They're an unbelievable franchise, and they're very, very good. No doubt about it. But 3 years ago, they were the out-of-nowhere great play. I mean, they had a good team. I get it. But they went from the team that like awesome stadium, barbecue, great fans, tailgate, fun story. Chiefs haven't necessarily won a lot. And now here they are. And it feels like the fatigue is going to start kicking in because of the chirping from auxiliary players. And then the other one that I felt, and then you can tell me if I'm off base on either one of these two things. We all have that friend that everybody likes. They're in your group of friends, but yet everybody also is kind of like, yeah, I love Jim, but man, a little goes a long way. Like, I just don't know if I'm in the mood to like be around him for the whole weekend. And I don't think anybody dislikes Tony Romo, but it feels like at this point a little is going a long way.
Yeah, Romo's starting to wear me out. And I used to be a big Romo guy.
Oh my gosh, he's got the whole. Calm down, man.
What a perfectly thrown ball, and it's like the wide receiver's twisting in the wind trying to haul it in.
The MJ Clyde Drexler 92 thing, it was so forced when he said that after Mahomes scored. I would disagree on the Kansas City part. I don't think they're outwardly chirping. I thought, honestly, it was a lot of reaction to what Cincinnati was chirping about all week long, specifically yesterday. I just think, if anything, people are just jealous of what Kansas City has done.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, that's a part of it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
to me, isn't like.
In other words, what I'm saying is, Kevin, at some point, every team, if they are in a dynasty, and I'm not saying they're a dynasty, but in the AFC, they're right now kind of a dynasty. At some point, every team, if they are the same team every year, there is this factor. Maybe I was too long-winded, and maybe this is a better way of saying it. Every team experiences I'm just ready for somebody new.
Yeah, again, I think it's jealousy or tired of seeing them there.
Right.
Less to do with.
So have the Chiefs entered into the category of I'm ready to see somebody new.
Yeah, but I think we would say that about any team that has been there for 5 straight years in an AFC Championship game and now in the Super Bowl for 3 times out of 4. Again, Patrick Mahomes seems, I guess his wife is a little bit odd, but he seems very likable. I don't mind him at all. Andy Reid, oh my gosh. I mean, up at the podium, he couldn't have been nicer post-game there. Kelce's Kelce, but I have no issue.
Hey, Jake, what you just said about Kansas City, you're dead on. I'm sick of them. They're the new Patriots. I don't think they've gone that far, but that's, again, having nothing to do with them.
I don't look at Belichick like Andy Reid at all.
Oh, I think there are a lot of people that have issue with Andy Reid.
With what?
I think
compared to Belichick?
Not as a person. I just think there are a lot of people that, without getting into it, there are some things that have happened tragically in Andy Reid's life that I think there are some people that feel like he over-prioritized football in general. But he's a very likable guy. I'm not going to deny that. What I'm saying is every team, it's a credit to them, every team at some point, if they win enough, reaches a level of, I'm ready for somebody different. Gonzaga. I remember when Gonzaga and Mark Few was a cute story and everybody loved it. And it was like, this is great. These underdog plucky guys from this little conference. And I think now people are like, oh, Gonzaga still, really? That Timmy guy drives me nuts. He's the new Christian Laettner or whatever it might be. And I thought yesterday, I think the Chiefs, it's the ultimate compliment, but I think the Chiefs have arrived there where, unless you're a fan of the Chiefs, there are a lot of people who are like, I'm just ready for somebody different.
Yeah, I mean, their post-game chirping yesterday was all in reaction to Cincinnati and what they said all week long with that. Colts head coaching search again. Second round of interviews. That's where we're at right now. Some names we can get into here. Coming up, Rich Bisaccia, the special teams coordinator with the Packers right now. We saw Wink Martindale over the weekend. Those are two of the two oldest candidates actually on the list. And it was reported yesterday that Shane Steichen, Philly OC, he is the lone play caller of the offensive coordinators that the Colts have interest in. Eric Bieniemy does not call plays. Brian Callahan in Cincinnati does not call plays. Steichen does with Philadelphia, and reportedly he will interview this week. And he's allowed to because the Colts met with him earlier in the process. And again, during the Super Bowl off week, they're allowed to. So, Jake, of those three, who kind of stands out to you?
I'm locked in on one guy, Kevin. And I really think and hope that it's going to be Raheem Morris. That's my thought process, right? So, Callahan's intriguing because he's young, right? And apparently endorsed by Manning. But then again, have they had a great track record of success of coaches that were endorsed by Manning? You know what I mean? Steichen, does Steichen intrigue you a lot?
He's got a very similar kind of Brian Callahan path. Again, he does call plays. I think you can look at that in one of two ways. I don't think it's some prerequisite to being a great head coach, but at the same time, he has a lot of responsibility on his plate. So would that prepare him for this job? And his quarterback history, we've talked about it with Callahan. I mean, Peyton Manning, Derek Carr, Matthew Stafford, obviously into Joe Burrow. If you look at Shane Steichen, it's Jalen Hurts right now, of course. It was Justin Herbert for a year, and then it was Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers and Shane Steichen are extremely close. And I think one thing to point out about that is Phillip Rivers ain't messing around with someone that doesn't have a high level of football intellect. And so I think you would be getting that with Shane Steichen. So
would Steichen be almost like a make good on a save face on the fact that Nick Sirianni walked out of the building and is immediately one of the upper level coaches in the NFL? Of like, you know what? Maybe we made a mistake there and that should have been our guy, so here we go.
Yeah, I don't know if I look at it exactly like that. Again, their resumes a tad different entering the positions that Sirianni's in right now. Steichen would potentially be in. Sirianni did not call plays here in Indianapolis, did not have necessarily the quarterback-centric background, more of a kind of coaching all over on the offense. I do think with Martindale and Bisaccia, those two, you're getting into Bruce Arians type people. You're getting into, I've heard John say this a lot over the last couple of weeks, old and crusty. That's what you'd be getting into with those guys. I mean, remember when we had Chuck Pagano on a few weeks back? We brought up kind of late in the interview the name of Wink Martindale. I mean, Chuck didn't want to go off the line in saying, oh, yeah, he is exactly Bruce Arians-like. And I think that is something to keep in mind of if there is a Jeff Saturday quality that Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay like, and they would probably like that in other candidates, it is that little bit of you're not afraid to kind of undress a guy. You're not afraid to be a little bit more publicly critical, and maybe not publicly, but on a practice field in front of everybody, you're not afraid to call that guy out. I think a Martindale or a Bisaccia would have that. So I know their resumes cause a lot of pause for people because they've just kind of been longtime coordinators. Nobody really likes that sort of hire, and they aren't on the offensive side of the ball, so there's hesitancy there. But if you're going to look for candidates that, again, I think Ballard and Irsay, which obviously is a huge part of this, I do think those two could align with that style of leader, which is why you're seeing them get a second interview.
I wonder this, Kevin. Like, take Eric Bieniemy. How much of Eric Bieniemy, I think we've discussed this in the past, how much of the interview or the getting acquainted with Eric Bieniemy is wanting to talk to Eric Bieniemy about the head coaching position, and how much of that is, hey, Eric Bieniemy, you have been the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs now for a handful of years, but everyone knows that Andy Reid is the guy calling plays, and that might be the last step that's holding you back from a head coaching position. So if you want to finally get out from underneath that wing and you want to be like Marvin Lewis getting out from underneath, taking the step forward finally of getting away from the brand of the franchise with which you're a defensive coach. Come to Indianapolis, and if you are our offensive coordinator, we will let you create and call plays for the offense, and that's the final piece of your resume necessary to help you become a head coach somewhere.
Yeah, it's unquestionably a huge part of it, Jake, because look at what you're seeing Eric Bieniemy do. Eric Bieniemy is not only interviewing for the Colts head coaching job, he's interviewing for offensive coordinator jobs.
That's what I mean, yeah. So
he knows, his resume has hurt him in some capacity. He's interviewed all these places and can't get a head coaching gig. And I think a part of that, of course, is, again, people look at Kansas City and say, it's Reed, it's Mahomes. Bieniemy is not a big part of that. So I think he has kind of come to grips with himself and saying, all right, as great as this run has been, and it's one of the best runs in NFL history, I've got to get out of here to further my candidacy, to improve my resume, to bolster how I'm viewed around the league. So I look at that and think, if the Colts hire a defensive head coach, if it is Raheem Morris or it is Ejiro Evero, is that where Bieniemy could come here as the OC?
Right.
And he would run the show here, a la kind of what you see with, or I guess what you saw with Matt Eberflus and Gus Bradley here in Indianapolis. So a whole lot of stuff we can get to. We'll take your calls, 317-239-1070. We'll continue the Colts head coaching search questions. The Myles Turner contract extension news. It seems like pretty much everybody's on board with that. Curious if anybody has some thoughts on that. And, of course, Indiana and Purdue, two extremely hot teams, particularly with what IU's done now, winning 4 of 5 by double digits in the Big Ten. Maryland for Indiana tomorrow, and then Penn State for Purdue on Wednesday before those two meet Saturday at 4 o'clock in Bloomington. It does sound like we're getting some people kind of say that the roads are a bit dicier than maybe what we encountered on our way in, so be careful of that. A little bit slick, and I think in the donut counties we could be getting some precipitation.
I saw they're putting more of the freestanding Krispy Kremes are back, by the way. Speaking of the donut counties. Didn't we go through a whole phase of that? Like in the early 2000s, they were everywhere you turned. There was a new Krispy Kreme popping up, and then they were all gone one day. And now they're bringing them back.
We got the new one in Castleton, right?
Yeah, that's it. I saw that one, and I'm like, wait a minute. We did this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who doesn't love a Krispy Kreme donut?
I was going to say,
don't get me
you'll
wrong.
have no complaints for me.
Right.
On that.
Fair enough.
He's Jake Corey. I'm Kevin Bell and Mark Dykton on the ones and twos. Kevin and Corey, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Pressure and that cold front. The weather is cold, but the rumors and conversations are hot.
Colts coaching surge.
I think they're still looking towards an offensive-minded guy.
No college coaches.
How many are there total?
Interest in DeMeco Ryans. Eagles offense coordinator Shane Steichen. Bengals OC Brian Callahan. Kansas City OC Eric Bieniemy.
Colts have to get the quarterback and coach right because the AFC is loaded.
Jimmy Cook is about to leave this studio.
Your home for Indy Sports. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
With Discover, you can redeem your rewards for cash in any amount at any time. Learn more at discover.com/redeem rewards. Terms apply.
You had a solid retirement dream. Sell your home in a few years, bank the equity, downsize, and travel. But inflation and recession has you wondering if all your hard-earned equity will still be there. What if you could recession-proof your equity right now? You can with TrueHold. TrueHold will buy your home for its best current value before a recession can erode it. You get to bank all the cash now and live in your home for as long as you want. And TrueHold covers all property taxes, insurance, repairs, and maintenance. And since TrueHold pays your home's current value in cash now, it's yours to do whatever you'd like. Don't wait for inflation, recession, and interest rates to erode your home's value. Visit TrueHold.com and discover how much TrueHold will buy your home for today. Based on its best current value, not what's coming. Call 1-855-300-9993 or visit TrueHold.com. The smarter, faster way to cash out on your home's value without having to move. That's TrueHold.com.
Making Moves is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs.
After redshirting his first year at Ohio State, Joe Burrow spent the next 2 years as JT Barrett's backup. With Dwayne Haskins on the roster, Burrow didn't see much playing time and decided to transfer. LSU head coach Ed Orgeron zeroed in on Burrow and landed him. In his second season at LSU, Burrow led the Tigers to a 15-0 record, a national championship, and arguably the best season ever by a college quarterback.
Build your winning team today. Go to linkedin.com/sports.
Teams that win college bowls have great recruits, and great recruiting starts with great conversations. That's why when you post a job for free, LinkedIn Jobs taps into a network of over 875 million professionals to find the right people for your role. LinkedIn Jobs helps you narrow down to only the most qualified candidates, which means you can start hiring the right people faster. Go to linkedin.com/sports to post your job for free. That's linkedin.com/sports. Terms and conditions apply.
When you're an innovative business, every blinking cursor, every blank page is an opportunity. What will you do with it? Will you make something better or create something new? Our Dell Technologies advisors provide you with tools and expertise to do incredible things. Because we believe there's an innovator in all of us. For advice on smart PCs powered by Intel V Pro that's built for business, call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
O'Reilly. Protect your engine with Syntec Full Synthetic Motor Oil at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Syntec is designed for today's engines to dissipate heat and reduce friction and wear. Get 5 quarts of Syntec Full Synthetic and a MicroGuard Select oil filter for just $33.99, plus 2 times O Rewards points. Choose Syntec, available exclusively at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Hey, it's JMV from my friends Joe and John from Connecticut, and the best water possible to start that new year off right in 2023. If you think your water has some issues with it, you can tell by the way it's touching your skin, it feels on your skin, or taste. Do something about it with Connecticut. That's online at ConnecticutND.com. And don't forget the Indianapolis Home Show. You can check out Connecticut there between January the 20th and the 29th of January. Otherwise, online, ConnecticutND.com.
Puccini's 707 locations. Puccini's Pizza Pasta.com. Puccini's 707 locations. Puccini's Pizza Pasta.com.
Founded right here in Indianapolis in 1991 and winner of the World Pizza Championships in Parma, Italy.
Puccini's 707 locations. Puccini's Pizza Pasta.com.
Hopefully, you'll never have a house or business fire. But if you do, hopefully, you'll never forget this name, Michaelis. Michaelis crews often roll in before the fire hoses are rolled up. Then their talented craftsmen will restore your spirits. That starts by being your advocate with the insurance company. Water, storms, fire, and foundations. Life happens. Michaelis happens to help you through it. Call 844-FIX-INDY. Make it Michaelis.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
WIBC HD2, W298BB, WIBC HD3, W228CX, Indianapolis. The Pacers are back home to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. Thursday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
8 o'clock hour on a Monday. Good morning to you. My name is Jay Query. Kevin Bowen, the other voice you hear on this program. Mark Dykton is manning the controls for us. It's Kevin and Query, which we spent nearly 2.5 months coming up with the name of the show. On 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Super Bowl is set. It will be the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles out in Glendale, Arizona. And now, much like when, do you remember, Kevin, when Indiana made the national championship game in 2002? In the Kent State game of the regional finals, Tom Coverdale rolled his ankle, and it was like a week's worth of questions about Tom Coverdale's ankle. It was like the most bizarre thing to turn on national TV, and the most talked about topic in sports was the ankle of the Indiana guard. And I guess from Patrick Mahomes' standpoint, we'll get some of that, right? Because there were plays, there were times yesterday where he looked pretty darn hobbled. And I guess you get 2 weeks, so there's plenty of time, but you can bet that will be a topic of discussion. But this feels like about as pick 'em a Super Bowl as you could get, right?
Yeah, I think it's fluctuated a little bit. Chiefs a slight favorite, but yeah, the 2 number 1 seeds, first time since Eagles-Patriots back in 2017 that we'll have that. And obviously the Andy Reid dynamic, the Kelce brother dynamic, plenty of storylines for this one. As we mentioned a little bit earlier, the Colts can now interview any of the 4 coordinators that they had interest in that we saw coaching this weekend with San Francisco losing. If DeMeco Ryans wants to, he can interview with the Colts. Now, several reports out there that he will be the head coach of the Houston Texans. Of course, played for the Texans for quite a while. So we'll see if DeMeco Ryans wants to entertain that. But the other three offensive coaches from the weekend, Brian Callahan with Cincy, Eric Bieniemy with Kansas City, Shane Steichen with Philly, they can interview any of them. The latest on the search, right now it sounds like 6 reported names for second interviews. So going back to last week, that would be Jeff Saturday, Ejiro Evero, Raheem Morris, Wink Martindale, and then reportedly this week, Rich Bisaccia from the Packers, their special teams coordinator, probably most known for the Raiders' interim stint last season, the 2021 season, I should say, when he took over for John Gruden and led the Raiders to the playoffs, and then Shane Steichen, the Eagles' OC. I see a lot of Colts fans, Jake, on Twitter saying, like, the Colts are having such a long process, so at the end of the day, they can say, we interviewed everybody, and Jeff Saturday was easily the number one candidate. Do you look at it that way, or do you look at it the flip way and say, if Jim Irsay was just tired of this, wouldn't he just hire Jeff Saturday now? Yes. They've already done the Rooney Rule.
Yeah, I would think at this point. I do.
Maybe I'm trying to be open-minded, but I don't think Saturday's a slam dunk like some other people think.
No, I would agree with that. I personally think it's going to be Raheem Morris.
Yeah, I'd probably put him as the favorite right now.
But I wanted to ask you this, Kevin. There were reports that Raheem Morris was, and I can't recall what day. My apologies. They start to run together after a while. But that one of the days when Raheem Morris came in for his second interview, that he was there for he was in the building for 12 hours. And initially it was, oh my goodness, like that. What does that tell you? They had Biff Ward on the hotline, right? But it appears as though the second interview days are more extensive days, correct?
I think for the most part, I think Evero was reported like his interview was that long as well. So I think it's, let's, again, in the building for 12 hours. I mean, I would like to think at some point they can go home and then go to a hotel and shower and go out to dinner and do all of that. But I think that's something to watch for this week. Outside of Steichen, do we see Callahan or Bieniemy? Again, Ryan to this point seems to be a long shot. And then how does the rest of the week play out? Do we get to a third round of interviews? I was thinking about this over the weekend. Again, 5 openings in this year's coaching cycle. Last year, you had 8 new head coaches. Of those 8, Jake, 5 of them were on the offensive side of the ball, 3 on D.
Right.
I was looking at the records of the coaches hired from last season, and it's a very small sample size. Let me prep. I mean, it's 1 year. The 5 offensive coaches that were hired last year, they combined to go 46, 38, and 1, and 3 of the 5 made the playoffs. Of the 3 defensive coaches hired last year, they went 18 and 33, and none of them made the playoffs. Again, very small sample size, but certainly a stark contrast between the two. And then if you want to go back the previous cycle, obviously we're seeing what Nick Sirianni is doing as an offensive head coach, very young in his tenure. Should that be more? I mean, there's a lot of evidence. Again, small sample sizes, but a lot of evidence that points to you need to hire the offensive head coach.
When you look at what happened yesterday in the NFL, you have between Philadelphia and San Francisco, and I get it. San Francisco was down to, I totally get it. I mean, they were walking around Pier 49 asking if anybody wanted to try to play quarterback, if they could get them there in time, right? But Philadelphia is known for a dynamic offense is maybe the wrong word, but a unique offense, and Jalen Hurts is a heck of a talent. But San Francisco was a team, would you agree, Kevin, that their defense was kind of I know McCaffrey's a unicorn and Deebo Samuel's a unicorn, but for to a great extent, their defensive pressure is what had gotten them there. Of the 4 teams, San Francisco was the most defensive-laden team. Would you agree with that?
Number 1 in the league in defense, yeah.
Right. And what happened? I mean, I know that they couldn't put up points because of the quarterback situation, but when it came down to it, once they got up against buzzsaw offenses, they ran out of...
Their defense wasn't great, but Josh Johnson dropping a snap and giving them a short field.
Totally get it. Totally get it. And they were gassed. They were worn down. But it has become an offensive league. It just is. It just is. Kansas City, Patrick Mahomes is 27 years old and is in his 3rd Super Bowl. He is 3 years younger than Peyton Manning was when Peyton Manning made his first Super Bowl, and this is his 3rd. And when Peyton Manning was a player, what did we say in those days? Well, Peyton Manning, the thing holding him back is he doesn't have a great defense. That's because the game has changed, especially once the competition committee changed the rules, like in, I think it was 05 or 06, about the way defenses can guard receivers, etc. It is an offensive league. And offenses, the old saying of offense sells tickets, defense wins games, those are on vintage T-shirts for a reason. Because in 2023, open-minded, open-field offenses are what win you games in the National Football League.
So should the Colts be eliminating those defensive candidates then?
I don't know if I would say eliminating. I mean, because I personally, Raheem Morris is the guy that I think it's going to be and I really like. But I just think whoever it's going to be, the critical hire is going to be not only, of course, the head coach, but what do you do offensively, and can you get weapons for the Colts? Who the Colts? Let's just be frank here, okay? And I don't mean Frank Reich. Let's just be brutally honest. I'm Jake Query. It's 8/11 on January. Is today the 30th or 31st?
Yes,
January
30th.
30th. And I'm here to say this epiphany and reality. Watching the Kansas City Chiefs, watching the Cincinnati Bengals, watching the Buffalo Bills, watching the Philadelphia Eagles, watching watching the Jacksonville Jaguars for that matter. Yes, you want to get the right person hired, but to a great extent, it doesn't matter a whole lot right now because for the next 2 or 3 years, there is a logjam in the AFC of teams that actually have playmakers, of teams that prioritize wide receiver, getting people in space, and the quarterback position. And instead of dilly-dallying around and going out and consistently going back to either TJ Maxx or Goodwill to get some players and get people on the field, they went out and they got Jamar Chase, and they got T. Higgins, and they got Jalen Hurts, and they got obviously Mahomes, but they moved up to get Mahomes and then gave him a year to learn and then put him in the situation in Kansas City. And yeah, it helps that you had Trevor Lawrence as the number 1 pick, but they went out and they got Christian Kirk and said, let's pair him with them. And in the second round, they said, let's get a running back that can open things up and get him in space for Trevor Lawrence, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. These teams have weapons, and you watch the Colts and you go, the Colts have guys. They deprioritize positions that now makes them look like they're sitting around, driving around in Dad's Oldsmobile. And it's a nice car, but everybody else has a Ferrari.
Yeah, and not even, Jake, going to like the extent of Jamar Chase. I mean, obviously they drafted 5th overall. That's a totally different animal when you're drafting that high. But you look at Kansas City's leading receiver yesterday, and it's Marquez Valdes-Scantling, a free agent acquisition. It's those types of moves to bolster, give more depth, however you want to describe it. And you look at the Colts, and said it all year long, you don't support the quarterback. The quarterback didn't support you. It's one of the worst skill groups, in my opinion, in the NFL. And that's why I think, honestly, more of the problem is roster-driven than it was Frank Reich-driven or head coaching-driven this season. And you watch the AFC Championship game yesterday, and how do you not think to yourself, man, as a football fan, this is a joy to watch. But as a fan of a team that's in the AFC, this is really hard to watch because this is your reality for the next, half dozen years, potentially longer. And again, you're not even talking about other quarterbacks in this conference that could be on the doorstep of that as well. So again, Rich Bisaccia reportedly today, special teams coordinator Shane Steichen later in the week. We'll see if Brian Callahan or Eric Bieniemy enter that list. If not, of the 6 names we've seen here for second interviews, only one is an offensive head coach. Only one.
Which is interesting.
And do you call Jeff Saturday an offensive head coach?
Boy, that's a really good question. He's a more offensive-minded one for sure, right? I mean, for Saturday, the biggest question is going to be, who is your offensive coordinator, right?
Well, I think there's a lot of questions, yeah. I mean, staff in general. Again, we'll continue to monitor Frank Reich's situation in Carolina. Does he try and bring Gus Bradley with him? I think there were some reports that Vic Fangio might go to Carolina, but now he's going to Miami. So we'll see about Gus Bradley on that front. Tony East is going to join us in about 15 to talk more about the Myles Turner contract extension. Bob Kravitz at 9. Bob just wrote something on The Athletic, hand in the air, apologizing for, these are his words, and being wrong about the Myles Turner situation. Jake, on the Turner front, do you think it was more of he blossomed with Tyrese Halliburton? That's 1. 2, the lack of development from the young big guys on your roster. Or 3, they never got a trade offer that was enticing enough?
1. At the beginning of the year, the Pacers were very candid in saying, we are really excited about what Myles Turner's game is going to be able to do in partnership with Tyrese Halliburton. And Tyrese Halliburton is very excited about what his game can do being partnered with Myles Turner. And when the Pacers had Turner and Sabonis, they did a very expansive, cybermetrics study of number of players on the floor that touched the ball once each player came into the game from being out and was on the field or on the court by themselves. Okay, when Sabonis was on the court, the number of players in a half-court set that touched the ball when he came back in the first set was blank. And then the same with Turner. And they looked at it and said, Turner's a guy that his style of play offensively, and Sabonis is a wonderful player, but I think that they wanted to diversify and more spread open their offense, and they felt Turner was the guy that better was suited for that style. Then when they really saw Halliburton play, they went, whoa, wait a minute. Now we got a guy that can not only yo-yo the ball all over the place, but dictate pace, and Turner's a good fit for that. And they wanted to make sure the two of them could run together. And they're like, yep, this works. So now let's put ourselves in position to continue to let it grow and buy ourselves the flexibility of time to put other pieces around it and make sure that this is exactly what we need. And so the 2-year deal's perfect. Now, they could also trade him if somebody comes along. But I've said forever, Kevin, my thing has always been Myles Turner has – I'm not saying Myles Turner is void of value in the NBA, but Myles Turner has more value to Indiana than he does in his style of play and what he does. He has more value to what Indiana is doing than he would to a lot of places if he's plugged to play. And so, therefore, the return on investment, I think, would not have been what they wanted because of the fact that Turner has a value here that would have been difficult to replicate elsewhere.
I think a common theme we've seen over the last couple of weeks, and again, bringing Turner back on a 2-year extension is fine by me. I did not want to see a 4-year, $100 million commitment to him to where he would be into his 30s. You would maybe have the feeling with him of this is my big payday. And, I don't think Turner's kind of wired that way, but, would there be any kind of lackadaisical approach to him moving forward? But just look how this team has played the last couple of weeks without Tyrese Halliburton. If that doesn't tell you that they need to add one more major piece, then you're looking through rose-colored glasses. They've played a Milwaukee team that's sat a couple of their big guys in the last couple of weeks. I was in the game up there in Milwaukee. Denver didn't have Jokic for that matchup. Phoenix sat a lot of guys, and yet the Pacers run off the floor in 2 of those 3 games. There's way too much on Tyrese Halliburton's plate right now. Way too much. And Benedict Mathurin is playing extraordinarily well, scoring at a very high level off the bench for you. But you need to find one more really, really big piece. And in all likelihood, to do that, it's got to come through the draft.
Yeah.
And it's got to come through the 2023 draft. Indiana is outside of the play-in right now. First time they've been in that situation in quite a while. I think if the draft were today, they'd have 8th, I want to say. Obviously, depending on how the ping pong balls would fall. But to me, Jake, that's right now. I know it's a harsh reality to want to cheer for this, and I get that fans have been so excited about this season and hate how the Colts season unfolded. They don't want to go down that path. The best case scenario for this season is to miss the playoffs.
You're right.
Get in the lottery.
We're kind of back there, right? Like
we are. Yeah, we are.
We've moved the goalpost a little bit, but I'm not in disagreement with you.
And I get that's a bummer for people out there, but that's the reality of where you're at right now. We'll see when Halliburton makes his return. The hope is this weekend, is how Rick Carlisle labeled it before the game last night. Thursday, Friday. Lakers Thursday, Kings Friday. That's a back-to-back here at home. Indiana will not play each of the next 3 days, and then they'll have Cleveland Sunday. It's almost getting to the point where, like, if Halliburton doesn't play this weekend for some reason, would you just sit him till the All-Star break?
Probably.
I mean, we're like 2 weeks away from the All-Star break.
Where's the All-Star game this year?
I think, Mark, will you double-check this? I think Salt Lake City.
You're right, yeah.
Thursday, we'll,
have you been to Salt Lake City?
Find out if Tyrese Halliburton made it as a reserve. Again, coaches voting on that. I have not, no.
Mark, you been to Salt Lake
No.
City? I had this wild, grandioso vision when I was in, like, late high school, early college, and I was thinking about, like, how I wanted to be, you know, a sports director. I mean, an 11 o'clock sports anchor somewhere. And I, for whatever reason, I had this vision, like, you know what? I'd love to go to Salt Lake City and be like the Ed Sorensen of Salt Lake City, talking about the Jazz, and live on like a huge house like you have in Geist, like on the Great Salt Lake. And I was so naive because, like, you don't get within 20 miles of the Great Salt Lake. Whole place smells like salt. Have you ever been there?
No.
I mean, not the city. I know you said you haven't been to the city, but to Utah in general.
No.
I flew over it once. It was really unbelievable, but you talk to people that have been to the Salt Lake, and it's like, yeah, dude, you get like within 20 miles of it, and the whole, like, the air smells like a sulfuric salt, and like it's all crusty, and like nobody goes there.
My 6-year-old nephew thinks that the Utah Jazz eat at the restaurant right there at 54th and College.
Yeah, the Jazz Kitchen. That's right. When they come here, that's where they go. Yeah.
Drove by there and said to his
Is
dad.
that Carlos Boozer?
Said to his dad, is that where the NBA Utah team
right
eats?
across from where the Georgia football team eats, right?
Yeah, right. The Bulldog there, and yeah. You got Fat Dan's and 20 Tap. Yeah, you got the whole shebang on that intersection. All right, Tony Easton, about a half hour. Bob Kravitz coming up at 9 o'clock. Again, the commute in this morning was not bad for any of us, but it sounds like there are some spots around Indy just a hair slick, so keep an eye on that.
Tony's coming up next, by the way, not a half hour.
Oh, yeah, it is already. Jeez, gosh, this Monday is flying by.
Thank goodness.
8:30 for Tony East. Thank you, Mark. Bob Kravitz at 9. Let's hit a morning check down before we get to Tony East.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Mark, Kevin, I'm going to go ahead and lead off with the ladies here in college basketball before handing it over to you in what happened yesterday in the Big Ten on the men's side. But how about Katie Gerald's Lady Boilers? 15-6 overall, and now 6-5 in the Big Ten. They handed Ohio State, who began, of course, the week by losing at Indiana in what was a great matchup. The Buckeyes number 2, but they are kind of reeling here. But Purdue, the latest to hand them a win. 73-65. Purdue wins yesterday in women's basketball. Again, now 6-5 in the Big Ten. But kudos to Katie Gerald.
Oh, that was their first road win over a top 5 team in program history.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Very impressive on that note. Speaking of the Boilers, Zach Edey was the National Player of the Year once again yesterday, 38-12. Again, what stands out to me the most, 0 turnovers for Edey in 32 minutes. You look at the 2 games against Michigan State this season. Zach Edey, 70 points and 26 rebounds. Tom Izzo has had absolutely zero answer for the best player in college basketball. 77-61 Purdue wins. I thought in the first half, really important minutes off the bench for them. David Jenkins, the transfer, shooting the ball much, much better than he was earlier in the year. You know, Mason Gillis hit a 3, Brandon Newman hit a 3, Ethan Morton hit one from behind the arc. Important for Purdue to get that. They will have Penn State coming up on Wednesday, and Bloomington will be Saturday at 4 o'clock there. The Indiana Hoosiers await. IU will take on Maryland tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. Indiana, one of, if not the hottest team in college basketball right now. They've won 5 straight. They've won 4 of those 5 by double digits. It was 86-70 over Ohio State on Saturday night. Here was Mike Woodson on the big run to end the first half that really broke that game open.
And we go a little something like this. Hit it.
You know, I came in out of the timeout. I'm like, guys, we just sitting here trading buckets, and we can't trade the rest of the game. Somebody's got to make a stand. And we came out of that timeout. I talked about getting 3 or 4 stops, and we got a lot of stops and was able to get out and make plays in the open court offensively to get the cushion that we needed going in at halftime.
That was his reaction when he got back from COVID too, right? The Tone Loc.
That's right. He had every dog in the neighborhood over at his house, right? Spuds McKenzie, Alex from Stroh's. Pacers yesterday, 112-100 losers to the Memphis Grizzlies. Grizz snap a 5-game losing streak. Jaren Jackson from Park Tudor, who, I'll be honest, I have no recollection of playing when he was at Park Tudor, but was at Park Tudor nonetheless, and a great NBA player. 28 points. John Morant had 27 with 10 boards and 15 assists. Pacers have dropped 3 in a row. Benedict Mathurin with 27 for the blue and gold. They host the Lake Show, the Lakers, on Thursday. Remains to be seen if LeBron James will be playing, but certainly he will not be breaking the record, it appears. Charlotte, Cleveland, and Milwaukee, all winners in the association yesterday as well.
It's kind of a fun Thursday, Friday back-to-back. Sabonis, he has not been here, right, playing since he was traded?
That's going to be on Friday, and then on Sunday they've got Cleveland. So
nice little 3-game and 4-day home stretch for the Pacers. Again, the Super Bowl, it will be the Chiefs. It will be the Eagles. The Eagles absolutely dominate San Francisco, and that one defensive line got after Brock Purdy, and then once Purdy got hurt, Josh Johnson experiment did not go well, and it was really just a disaster from there. Chiefs-Bengals, very good game late in that one. Again, boneheaded penalty, but man, you see the emotion that Joseph Asai had after that game. You do feel for him.
He was devastated by that, man. And I really did think.
And again, a 265-pound defensive lineman hustling on that play. Oh, boy. It was definitely
I thought he lost his footing on when he pushed Mahomes out of bounds. Now, obviously, the replay, I'm like, that was – and Mahomes was clearly out. I mean, that was you cannot swallow that whistle call, right? I mean, they had to make that call. Costly time for it, though, man.
45-yard field goal by Harrison Butker for the win there. So Patrick Mahomes, 10 playoff wins. He is the youngest quarterback in NFL history to reach that mark, a year younger than Tom Brady. All right, Myles Turner, the contract renegotiation and extension. We'll get into all of that next with Tony East coming up here on Kevin and Corey, 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
Helzberg Diamonds presents the holy grail of engagement rings. Michael was getting engaged and needed a ring, but not just any ring, the engagement ring. The kind that when he saw it, he'd just know. So Michael looked around online, asked friends for advice.
I want a ring that's special. One that's,
You gotta go to Helzberg.
Michael went to Helzberg Diamonds, where he found an incredible selection of beautiful rings, settings, and both lab-grown and natural diamonds, certified and guaranteed to be of the highest quality. He also met Sarah, a Helzberg Diamond expert, who helped him find that special ring he was looking for, so that when his fiancée opened the box...
Wow, it's...
Yep, sounds right to me. Be like Michael. Find the engagement ring of her dreams at a Helzberg store near you or online at Helzberg.com. And right now at Helzberg Diamonds, take advantage of special financing offers.
Why does We Grow Hair Indy have the best hair transplant results? Because they have the best technology. And I'm living proof of it. Hey, this is JMV. We Grow Hair Indy has the technology that restored both my bald spot in my crown area and PRP to keep my hairline and non-transplanted hair looking good. This year, they can restore your bald spot and your hairline. Call 317-522-2995. 317-522-2995. Here's Darren Andrews to explain.
Having that strong hairline again completely changes the way you see yourself. It makes a huge difference. A lot of people think the crown cannot be transplanted. It's actually an area of specialty for us with our multi-unit hair grafting.
My hair is going to grow the rest of my life, and that's exactly what I want. Call 317-522-2995. $29.95 to schedule your free evaluation. That's 317-522-2995. And check out my results at WeGrowHairIndy.com, the gold standard in hair restoration.
Okay, Julie, have you made your decision?
Oh, wow, I have. This was a tough choice. I had such a great time with Brad, but I am gonna have to pick Geico.
Interesting.
Geico is just, sorry, I'm getting emotional, been by my side, for so long with great customer service.
I thought we had something, Julie.
I'm sorry, Brad. Geico is just always there for me whenever I need them.
It's an insurance company.
No, it's an insurance partner, Brad.
For the choice you can always rely on, go to geico.com.
Attention. Per the current government mandate, U.S.-based insurers are now required to cover at-home COVID testing kits with no out-of-pocket fees to you. If you have a current insurance plan, you are eligible to receive up to 8 COVID-19 tests shipped to you each month absolutely free as long as the government mandate is in effect. Just visit yourfreetest.net to register now. That's yourfreetest.net to receive your tests shipped to you at no cost. Go to yourfreetest.net. Medicare insured or not eligible.
They're being thorough, and I get it.
The amount of candidates.
13 different people. Head coach of the Indianapolis Colts.
It's been a bit underwhelming around here with the coaching search.
What are we up to numbers-wise now, 16?
Who could be next?
If Jeff Saturday is the hire.
I don't think I'm ready to go that far just yet.
Brian Callahan. Raheem Morris.
Anyway, the Saturday's not going to be in Final Five.
Your home for Colts football is 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
It'll be pen to paper for Myles Turner coming up this afternoon. Press conference to announce his renegotiation plus an extension. So Myles Turner under contract in Indiana through 2025. He'll be 29 years old at that point. I think a big reason why his camp probably wanted that length of time is he can then hit free agency before 30. The new TV contract will be entering the salary cap situation for the NBA right around that time as well. So that is going to help him in getting one.
I'd like a camp. Are you guys my camp?
Final major payday. Oh, I think you got a camp. Don't we do the bingo card every day?
Who's my camp?
Oh, Byron and gosh, who else?
Oh, there's plenty going on.
Farkas
is like
yeah,
COO.
he's in the B and the O on the bingo card. He's all over it. Yeah, we got.
He doesn't even live here.
Well, you guys FaceTime.
Dave First
Dave
First in my camp
is on there,
okay.
Certainly. Yeah, I think Kevin Lee's on there, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Let's head to the Payless.
Well, I'll add you guys to the camp.
We'll
get you a little 2-man tent.
Tony East joins us here from the Payless Liquors Hotline. Tony East from Forbes. Locked On Pacers. Tony, let's start with the renegotiation part, okay? So Myles Turner is going to make a whole lot of money now for the rest of this season. Why were the Pacers able to do that?
Yeah, only some very specific situations allow a renegotiation to even happen. So the Pacers were one of only 2 teams in the league that had significant cap space at this point in the season. It's been talked about a lot that, they're able to do even the Russell Westbrook rumored trades in the offseason. Some of the stuff that was talked about for them during the season was because they had all this space that would allow them to make, imbalanced trades or big signings, whatever, during the season. But it also allowed them to do a renegotiation with players who met a certain criteria. And Myles Turner met that criteria. He had been with the team long enough. His contract was long enough that he was eligible to do this. And it's effectively exactly what it sounds like, right? His contract for this season literally just gets renegotiated. They pay him more money. But a team wouldn't just pay a player more money for fun. They would want something in exchange. And in exchange, the way that this transaction is going to work out is they'll add 2 years onto the back of his deal, and those years will be much, much less salary than the renegotiated amount this year. So Turner's salary will jump way up this season, all the way up to his maximum, and then the next 2 seasons will drop by, about 40% to be a much more reasonable number, probably a little bit below his market value for both of the next 2 seasons. Per a lot of the reporting, it decreases from the second year to the third year, which is very team friendly, and is something that I was always considered very tradable around the league. So, just a really good way to use the salary cap space by the Pacers to get Turner on a team-friendly deal and use that space for something, because at some point this season with the salary floor, they would have had to do something with it anyway.
Tony, when it comes to this particular extension for Myles Turner, I want to make clear on this and in clarifying this, and I was hoping you could do so. Initially, the report, comes out, and then it is, oh, and by the way, this also allows him to be traded by the deadline. And I think there were a lot of people that thought that the Pacers in the negotiation worked that in somehow, or that it was an important aspect of it for Indiana. Was that by design, or did it just kind of fall as one of the clauses within the extension? In other words, did they specifically target to have that possibility and flexibility for themselves?
It's hard to say, because parts of an extension, if it's a certain amount of extension, if your salary is going to go up or down by more or less than 5% from season to season of an extension, and if it's longer than 2 years, then you're ineligible to be traded, right? That is why, if you'll recall last season, as many remember, when Malcolm Brogdon signed his extension with the Pacers, he was not eligible to be traded for 6 months, and so he was tied to the Pacers for at least that full season, because that 6-month restriction went through the trade deadline. So it does, because Turner's extension is only 2 years and has a drop in salary, it doesn't go up by 5% because it got renegotiated way up this year. He is still eligible to be traded, but it's hard to say if that was a motivating factor at all, because of the things that that Kevin said at the top of this, which are big motivations for Turner anyway. That he could now be a free agent, still in his 20s in 2 years, right? 29 at the end of this deal now, and the TV deal I think is going to be a big motivator for players. You saw the last time there was a big jump in money for the league back in 2016, and players were getting contracts that made no sense, huge money for guys, because of new TV money. Now that, I don't know if it'll happen to that extent again, but when the salary cap jumps in 2025, players will reap the benefits of that, presumably, as the salary cap goes up. So there was already a lot of reason for it to be this specific length, but it is at least interesting and noteworthy that it does fit the parameters of an extension that would allow a player to still be traded. So I don't know if it went into the thinking or if it's just a coincidence, but it is certainly a factor to consider.
The last TV contract, I feel like that's when Jan Mahimi signed for millions, and I was like, what in the world is going on here? Again, Tony East is with us, Locked On Pacers, at TEastNBA on Twitter. Tony, I tossed this question towards Jake a little bit earlier, so I will throw it at you. 3 reasons why you think maybe what we thought in August didn't unfold, and that was Turner being traded, and now he is signed here, for the next couple of seasons. Would you go with he's played great with Tyrese Halliburton? Or 2, the Pacers have lacked development from their young bigs? Or 3, they never got a trade offer that was truly enticing enough to part ways with them?
Can there be a D for all of the above?
Sure.
from those tests you take around? I think.
How would you slice that pie, I guess?
I think A is the biggest one, because, this was to me like the very crux of all this is, if you're the Pacers and they're 11th in the East right now, right? For a long time this season, their season looked promising and great, and they were 6th in the playoffs. But right now they're out of the play-in, right? But when Turner, Mathurin, and Halliburton are all on the court, Halliburton, 22 years old, ideally a franchise cornerstone you have for a long time. Mathurin still can't even drink legally. He's 20, right? When those 3 guys are on the court together, the Pacers have been unbelievably good. That their net rating with all 3 guys on the floor is plus 14.4. If you did that over a full season, you'd win 80 games or something, which is not possible. But you get what I'm saying. They've been ridiculously good in 330 minutes with all 3 of those guys, and when all 3 of those players play, the Pacers are 20-14 this year. That's really good. It's almost a 50-win team, and that's right now, right? That's with those guys being 22-20. So I think his good play is sort of, I conflate that with really good fit with their the dudes of their rebuild or their new era or whatever term you want to use. I think that had to be the biggest reason that this made sense for both sides to pursue is that they, can be comfy knowing that, oh, wow, this makes a lot of sense for us if we're going to continue to win at the level we were winning at earlier this season when they were sixth and even fifth at times in the East for part of this. But certainly those other things have to be a factor, right? They're toggling, it seems like, game to game, which backup big gets minutes to try to get time for both Jalen Smith and Isaiah Jackson, who have waffled in their effectiveness. Goga barely ever plays anymore. They haven't gotten much from those guys all year, and certainly, the trade for years and years. Even Turner just being in the rumors at media day for all that time, and so if they ever got something they wanted, maybe they would have taken it. Maybe even last year when he was injured. I don't know what they were and weren't getting off of, but certainly you'd think that, given how the discourse has gone around him and how the team's construction was, that had to be a factor at some point. But I think that this season specifically, because they were playing so well and because Turner was playing so well and finally playing the position that he's always, kind of clamored to play. And he said at media day, right, I don't think I've scratched the surface of my potential. And a lot of people kind of go, okay, you're in your 8th year. When's that coming? Well, it did come. He was right. And I think a lot of that has been playing the five, playing the role in the position that he has always kind of wanted, even though he's been playing next to Sabonis, and it all just kind of came together and made sense.
Tony, could you make the argument that Turner is maybe more attractive to trade now based off this contract actually like being written out, being on the books? And maybe that's not till the summer, once the $35 million he makes this year is done with, and then you look ahead to the next 2 years, and I think it's like 20 and 21 million each of the next two. Again, I don't think that's necessarily the Pacers' line of thinking in this, but if you were another team, the fact that you see the contract, the Pacers have already done kind of the dirty work, if you will, it almost seems like he would be a pretty attractive trade guy coming up here in the summer, and that you wouldn't be getting an expiring contract.
Yeah, every declining contract ends up, being something that's like, oh, that sounds nice, if you're another team or a decision maker or whatever, like Buddy Hield even. Yeah, I never talked about it that way. Buddy Hield's contract declines from season to season when Aaron Gordon was a popular name on the trade market before getting to Denver. That was a big reason. He was discussed so highly in trades, besides their talent, obviously, for all these players, is that their contract is great, right? You get it this year, then next year it drops, and all of a sudden you have that extra amount that it goes down by to, do something else or add another player, whatever, because, with the cap going up at the same time, all of a sudden you have more wiggle room just by having a player. So that alone, even ignoring the renegotiation part, the fact that it drops after the renegotiation, of course, and then again drops from 23-24 to 24-25, well, I think would be very appealing to teams. And I think the biggest appeal, though, beyond the fact that it drops from year to year, is that I think it's probably below his market value. And even with the way that it's trending for centers, which I know Kevin uses sometimes, but Yusuf Nurkic got $17.5 million per year this offseason, and Mitchell Robinson's getting, over $15 million a year. Turner's better than those guys, right, maybe on both ends, right? So the going rate for centers is about that. It's only 2 years, and, he got $18 million per year 4 years ago, right? Even if you think he's the same level of player that he was back then, from a percentage of the salary cap perspective, he's actually making less than he was back then with the way that his deal kind of shook out because of the renegotiation part. So I think it certainly is in the next 2 years very team friendly and pretty tradable contract for the way it shook out.
Tony, you know what's interesting? Tony East is our guest, by the way. He's on the Payless Liquors hotline. So the Pacers, now that they come home here, it's going to be, I believe, Friday night. Sacramento comes to town with Domas Sabonis. And I was thinking about this. If you look at the way that De'Aaron Fox has played, and Sacramento is a team completely off the radar. I get it. I mean, it's not like people around here are familiar with the Kings, but they're playing well in the West. De'Aaron Fox has really evolved and grown, and Sabonis is playing well for them. This doesn't happen very often, but is it safe to say now that this was actually an NBA trade where both teams equally benefited?
Yes, it's super rare that a trade ends up this way. And I think the way that, people who really talk about this stuff all the time think about it is even though both teams are equally benefiting, they would say, oh, the Pacers still won because the guy they got younger. But, is that really all the calculus? Because the Kings are third in the West. They haven't been good. And forever, I think that the thing that's always said, because the Mariners made the playoffs, they have the longest drought in pro sports now. It's they haven't made the playoffs since the iPhone was a thing. They
right.
totally different motivations than many NBA teams do in building their team. And so the fact that they get Sabonis and all that, now all of a sudden De'Aaron Fox can be the guy with the ball, and Mike Brown's done a great job setting up the system for that team. But De'Aaron Fox can be the guy with the ball, and Sabonis can just set a zillion screens a game and mash on other dudes, and be the player that he can be. And he's playing the 5 too. The way it's helped Turner, it's also helped him. And Halliburton being not there has helped Fox in the same way that him being here and having the ball at times really helped him take off and develop. Like, it has every player involved, both in the trade and directly in terms of their position changing or their fit with their new team changing, has been really good or better as a result of the pieces moving around. And it's jarring to see a trade be this good for both teams so quickly, right? That the Kings are exactly where they want to be and look great and everything's fitting. And Sabonis should be a third-time All-Star this year, and Halliburton could be a first-time All-Star this year. Pacers in the playoff picture. It's so rare that a trade is that win-win that fast in the NBA, but that's certainly how it's been so far.
Tony, before we let you go, and again, Tony's latest up on SI.com kind of details everything Turner extension related, the impact on the trade deadline coming up a week from Thursday. Let's focus on that. I want to say the Pacers are kind of $8 to $10 million still in cap space if they want to do something, absorb a contract, whatever, coming up a week from Thursday. I guess what can they do, and what do you think they will do considering this recent skid?
Yeah, bingo. They can. The big thing they could have done with a ton of space before the renegotiation is take in a ton of money, but now they still can do something smaller, right? Like you're on it about 8.8. This is my number. I don't know if it's exactly right, but close. 8.8 million in cap space to take somebody in, or if they send out somebody making $4 million, they can take in a player making 12.5, and either that's a better player or it's a bad contract that you can get an asset with. So they still have space to wiggle around and potentially get an asset with. It always makes sense if you can to use as much cap space as possible to get assets if you're willing to spend that much. So the Pacers do have the ability to make some imbalanced trades to build their team a little more or get some more stuff at this deadline, depending on what they want to do. And I think that their focus is now clear for two reasons. One being the renegotiation and extension. The other being they've won one of their last 11 games since Tyrese Halliburton got hurt. That the long-term approach still, I think, has to be at the forefront of their thinking. With this deadline coming up, they've got their core locked up. Their team makes sense. Now it's time to get the long pieces around it that also enhance the team. And it wouldn't make sense to make short-sighted moves after doing some long-term thinking-based stuff all season. And so I think that all makes the most sense now, but this team has so many options of what they could do. Kevin Pritchard loves that optionality that it's hard for them to do something that wouldn't make any sense at this deadline.
Yeah, and again, that's the key with this. I think they've maintained some pretty good flexibility, which was my concern if you were to give Turner a longer deal. Tony's been all over this, and you guys have heard him on with us. You've certainly seen his work. The renegotiation aspect to this Turner deal was always something that Tony mentioned, and that is exactly how it played out. Tony, great stuff, man, and we'll be looking forward to your coverage over at the press conference later today.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
That's Tony East right there on the Payless Liquors hotline. Again, just to put numbers to years for this Turner thing, his contract climbs up to $35 million, goes from 18 to 35 for the rest of this season. The next 2 years, it will be about 21 and 20 million apiece. So I think what you saw with the Pacers here, Jake, is something that has kind of been my biggest issue, or one of my biggest issues with Chris Ballard in years past. When you have cap space, use it. Don't just let it sit there. And the Pacers could have done a couple of things. They could have tried to make a deal at the deadline coming up here in about 10 days, use their cap space that way, or they do this with Turner in that they extend him, and in return for that extension and really sweetening his salary for this season, they're able to get him under contract for each of the next.
It feels
2
very
years.
creative.
Very
it's not
creative.
unlike that math problem I sent you.
What? I thought those were hieroglyphics that you sent me.
I have one last math class to take.
I thought we were done. I thought it was just geology.
No, I have geology and one math class that I'm taking, and then I'm done altogether. But I had to take algebra. That was always my hurdle. This latest is just kind of like a cornucopia math class but it's literally like Math 102. But this particular assignment this week, we went from chapter 2 to chapter 12. Like, I almost wonder if they made a mistake.
Well, you got an A, and algebra, so now they're saying
understood.
he's
but
ready
this
for the
is
big leagues.
This is like doctorate level trivia. Like literally, this is Goodwill Hunting stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's very confusing. Yeah, by the way, Ben and David both, I appreciate both of them pointing out, they'd like to join my camp. They'd like to be in my camp. So we got Byron. Farkas doesn't live here, so he can't be in the camp, right?
It's 2022. 2023. You can't have virtual camps.
Byron first. Good point. Ben and David. And then I'm open for camp members.
Boy. Phone lines will light up at that. I would ask what goes on at Jake Quarry's camp, but that could really go down.
When I was a kid, the Jordan Y had Camp WeGo. Did you ever go to Camp WeGo?
I did not. No.
Okay, well this is going to be
Camp Tecumseh.
Okay, that's a good one. And this is going to be Camp WeYo. That's what it is, Camp WeYo. And that's it. This is my camp.
Emphasis on the yo, which means what I believe in Spanish.
That is correct.
At Jake's camp, there will be a lot of I coming from the leader of that camp.
Bob
Bob
Kravitz.
Right.
I love me some me.
Bob Kravitz in 10 minutes.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-484-5131 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-484-5131. That's 800-484-5131. What do you have to lose? Call 800-484-5131. Again, 800-484-5131.
The truck you've always wanted and get $6,000 off at Tom Wood Ford. Yes, America's best-selling truck, the powerful F-150, is $6,000 off now at Tom Wood Ford. Need an SUV? Take $4,000 off of Ford Escapes with unmatched design and ultimate tech capabilities. Buy with confidence, as most of our vehicles include lifetime powertrain coverage at no cost to you. It's all good at Tom Wood Ford on the corner of 96 and Keystone.
It's all good at Tom Wood. Bum bum.
Tax, title, and doc fees extra. See dealer for details.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, U.S. Tax Shield can help you take back control. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Our team of tax attorneys can stop collections and get you protected. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the BBB, so call 800-494-6139. U.S. Tax Shield, 800-494-6139.
All right, maybe Patrick Mahomes over the next couple of weeks get this ankle starting feeling a little better with QC Kinetics. We're talking about regenerative medicine and people that deal with joint pain, then get real lasting relief. They are the nation's leader. This exciting treatment that uses highly concentrated healing agents from your own body to restore and repair damaged joint tissue. If you've got ongoing joint pain from arthritis or injury, give QC Kinetics a call today for a free consultation. They've got locations here in Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and now they're up in Carmel. That is 317-559-PAIN. QC Kinetics. Stop taking the pain meds and tell you that surgery is your only option. You can get help with QC Kinetics and see what this amazing treatment option is all about. If you're tired of dealing with joint pain, QC Kinetics deserves a call. So again, free consultation awaits. Locations in Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and Carmel. QC Kinetics, 317-559-PAIN.
In St. Pete, Clearwater, Florida, every day is a great escape. With 35 miles of white sand, there's no better place to get away. So let's explore the secluded beaches of Fort DeSoto or paddle our way around Honeymoon Island. Let's kick back, kayak, and catch crimson sunsets. Let's trade snow boots for bathing suits. Let's make today and tomorrow a beach day. Let's shine. Plan your escape at visitstpeteclearwater.com.
The Pacers are back home to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. Thursday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
This will stun you, Kevin. People coming out of the woodwork wanting to be in my camp, which I appreciate. Like, I want somewhere, some way for people that listen to this program, for there to be a story somewhere where someone says, people in Jake Query's camp are saying, and I want people that listen to this program to say, that's me. Me, Harry. I'm a member of the camp. Me, David. I'm a member of the camp. Matthew. Yep, camper here. No lunchbox needed.
Matthew's camping from Maine?
Yep, virtually. No sleeping bag needed. Just my camp. Camp Weo.
Tough start to the week. I had my shirt on inside out. I just realized last
I did that yesterday. My daughter's like, your shirt's inside
I mean,
out.
we get dressed
is.
at, not collectively, but individually at what, like 6 a.m.? I mean,
who knows what's happening at Jake's camp? You never know on that front.
That's the thing. If you camp with me, you better be used to, it's like a rooster every morning, right?
Bob Kravitz.
I just want to be the best Jake that I can be.
That's at the campfire, right?
When you walk in the front door, that audio is being played every time. Bob Kravitz in 5 minutes. This is from Greg. Do any of these Colts head coaching candidates make you want to go out and buy tickets? I would say no, and I would also say, what were Eagles fans saying about Nick Sirianni or Bengals fans saying about Zach Taylor?
Here's the other thing. The NFL, it's as much about the Jimmy and Joes as the X's and O's.
Has any head coach ever made someone go buy a jersey? Like, we got that guy. I got to go get a jersey.
If you win.
Yeah,
just
Mike
win.
Ditka, the Saints, right?
Just win,
he's a former player, though. But, I mean, if you're a guy like, no.
Steal Jim Irsay's
You got to have
tweet.
players.
And if you win, people will show up.
You got to have players. And if you don't have players, it doesn't matter, right? You got to have players.
There's attributes of the Eagles season that kind of fell in line with the Colts. Remember back when the Colts played the Eagles? What was that? Early November? Remember the Eagles signed Ndamukong Suh that week?
Yeah.
Linval Joseph. Their run defense was horrid entering that game. And they looked at it and said, we have got to stop this right here, right now. We're going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary. They did that. Their run defense has been much better here. We saw it yesterday. Obviously, the quarterback situation helped out, but they were able to take away San Francisco's biggest strength. It's such a credit to what Howie Roseman, their GM, and Nick Sirianni, the combination of talent, acquisition, and I think they've done a great job coaching Jalen Hurts. That offense has a lot of college elements to it. Jalen Hurts, I think, clearly feels really comfortable in it. And they've got weapons on both sides of the ball. That defensive line group. Hassan Reddick, probably the MVP yesterday. It was either him or Malik Hooker for the Colts back in the 2017 draft.
People will buy their tickets to go to games because it's a social event, and there's always FOMO. There's always the fear of missing out. People renew their season tickets because they're like, man, if they do get really good, those Peyton years were so special. I don't want to miss out on that. The Andrew Luck years, the Chiefs come back. I don't want to miss out on that. And I think teams know that.
Yeah, no one is going to be a sexy hire at this point. No one. Like, do you think Panthers fans are overwhelmingly buying more tickets because they hired Frank Reich over Steve Wilkes?
Fair.
But yeah, Hassan Reddick went a pick or two before Malik Hooker. I was surprised the Colts did not look into Reddick. Well, I thought they should have in free agency each of the last 2 years, but we know how Chris Ballard handles free agency. All right, Bob Kravitz joins us in a few here. Kevin and Corey.
Big low pressure and that cold front drove. Weather is cold, but the rumors and conversations are hot.
Colts coaching surge.
I think they're still looking towards an offensive-minded guy.
No college coaches.
How many are there total?
Interest in D'Amico Ryans. Eagles offense coordinator Shane Steichen. Bengals OC Brian Callahan. Kansas City OC Eric Bieniemy.
Colts have to get the quarterback and coach right because the AFC is loaded.
Jimmy Cook is about to leave this studio.
Your home for Indy Sports. 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey there, it's Jake Query for the Good Feet Store of Indiana. Good Feet Store has two locations, one in Greenwood. You know, that's actually something, if you're in my camp, then you can get the inserts for the Good Feet Store. Anybody can, really, but, you know, they're not necessary to be in my camp. Well, and here's the thing. People would be able to say, people would say, they're like, I was at Turkey Run State Park, and I could tell Jake Quarry's camp because everybody was walking around that looked like nobody had foot pain because they all went to the Good Feet store of Indiana. 2 locations, Avon and in Clearwater at 82nd and Dean. The Good Feet store, of course, has the arch supports for your feet to make sure that you are pain-free. If you experience things like plantar fasciitis, which I've had, and it is grueling, or overall foot pain in general, or just sore feet, or you want to be preventative about it, you go in, simply stand on one of their pads there that gives them an imprint of your foot, and then you get arch supports that are designed to the contour and the pressure points of your feet, and pain goes away. You're pain-free. I love the results from the Good Feet store. American-made product. The staff is wonderful. They are absolutely take you step by step, pardon the pun, through the journey to becoming pain-free. I would love for you to check them out at goodfeetindy.com.
Get the absolute best price on cars, trucks, and SUVs at Tom Wood Used Cars of Greenwood. Shop for your family cars, gas savers, work trucks, and commuter cars. Buy with confidence at Tom Wood Used Cars of Greenwood, as most vehicles come with complimentary lifetime powertrain coverage. That's no-cost lifetime powertrain coverage over and above the manufacturer's coverage. It's all at Tom Wood Used Cars of Greenwood, the home of guaranteed credit, located at Stop 18 and US 31 in Greenwood.
It's all good at Tom Wood.
Indy's #1 for new country.
I got some famous friends.
Nobody plays more new country. 97.1 Hank FM. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
WIBC HD2 W298BB. WIBC HD3 W228CX Indianapolis. The Pacers are back home to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. Thursday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Kind of an ugly start to this week weather-wise. Commute in wasn't too bad for us, but it does sound like some commutes in this morning have been a little bit dicier than others, so watch out for some slick roadways, ramps, etc. We'll head to the Payless Liquors hotline, and I'll give this man plenty of credit. The second line in his latest on The Athletic. I was wrong about Myles Turner and his future with the Indiana Pacers. Bob Kravitz, I appreciate the apology.
Yeah, I knew when I heard this, I was like, oh, I'm going to have to write me a big old mea culpa, aren't I? But, look, things change, circumstances change in sports and in life. And, I think Myles really enjoys playing in Indiana now, and I think he really enjoys playing with Tyrese Halliburton. I think, being freed up to play the 5 without having to worry about Domas Sabonis has changed everything, including his outlook. I was told at the beginning of the season that there was no way that he was interested in coming back, and I thought that was reconfirmed when he went on the Woj podcast and said, hey, Lakers, you might want to trade for me, boys. And that never happened. And I give the Pacers and Myles people at CAA a lot of credit for finding a creative way to keep him in such a way that it's still kind of a cap-friendly deal for the Pacers.
Bob, do you think this move means that Buddy Hield is certainly going to be here throughout his contract? I think he's got one more year on it. Basically doesn't mean that we'll get through next Thursday's trade deadline, and for a team that's out of the play-in right now, it's going to be a pretty quiet trade deadline, it seems.
Yeah, the understanding that I have is that they are going to go into the trade deadline really with an open mind. They don't know at this point, I don't believe, whether they're going to be sellers or buyers. I think they want to see what's out there. They may very well end up doing nothing. I think I've hit on every possible permutation here, but I think it's more likely than not that Buddy Hield is still here. I hope he's still here because I think he's a great teammate and a hell of a player. But hell, man, I was wrong about Myles. I might be wrong about this one too. Who knows?
Bob, the interesting thing to me, Bob Kravitz is our guest on the Payless Liquors Hotline. We were talking earlier. I do believe that from the beginning of the year, the Pacers wanted to see how Turner affected Halliburton and vice versa on the floor, and whether or not that could be a symbiotic relationship. Clearly, it appears to be.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, with this way that this extension was done, it leaves open the door that Turner could, in fact, be traded still in a quote-unquote sign and trade. Do you believe, now, preface with this, I do not, but I want your thought on this. Do you believe that the Pacers made it clear or intended to have that clause in there to protect themselves, or because there is something still in the works, or is it just simply the byproduct of this particular style of extension?
Well, with this extension and renegotiation, or whatever they call it, they can trade him tomorrow. He is still on.
No, I get that, but what I'm saying is, do you think that that's what they are looking to do? I do not, but what do you think?
No. That's what I was getting to. I don't think. I have every indication. Again, I had an indication that he was not going to sign, but I don't think they're going to do anything with him this year. Now, I think what's happening, guys, is they know that Myles was super inspired to play well this year. I mean, it was a contract year. Now, I think what they want to find out is, okay, he's got his money now. How's he going to play? I think Myles is a pro. I think Myles will continue to play well. But I think there's still a chance that they would move him beyond the trade deadline. Again, they're not going to do anything this trade deadline. At least that's not the plan. But I think down the road, if they see a better deal, they could still move him. So I think the trade talk will continue to swirl around Myles Turner for as long as he's here, it would seem.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of reasons. Hidden free agency at the age of 29, the new TV deal. He could be looking at a pretty good contract if he continues to play well over the next couple.
That's exactly right, Kevin. I mean, he'll be, I think, 28 when this contract is up. He'll be in his prime, theoretically, and the new TV money comes in. There's going to be a lot more money. The pie's going to be bigger for the players, and if he's still playing really well, he can really hit the jackpot. So it's a win-win, really, for the Pacers, and it's a win-win for Myles.
Again, Bob Kravitz has his latest up on The Athletic. Shifting gears to the Colts. This head coaching search now 3 weeks old. I don't think there's any sort of imminent end to it anytime soon. Bob, the longer it goes, what does that mean for Jeff Saturday?
I think it means that they're moving on. I don't know. I don't know what to read into all this, guys. I just know that there's no way you can look at the original 13 or the 6 or 7 guys that they have now and make the argument that Jeff Saturday is better prepared to be the coach of the Indianapolis Colts than, say, Raheem Morris or Eric Bieniemy or Callahan or any of those guys. So I'm not sure what to read into it. I'm not surprised that he made the second cut because of his relationship with Irsay, but I think they're going to go in a different direction.
Bob, this is kind of probably a tired subject, I guess, but if Saturday is the guy, I would agree with you. It seems as though the longer we go here, the more it seems a certainty that's not going to be the case. But if Saturday's the guy, if you're Chris Ballard at that point, are you like, what the hell am I doing here?
Right. Oh, I think he's had that thought many, many dozens of times over the course of the last, calendar year. There's no question. At the same time, and look, he would get a job somewhere else in about 15 minutes. I truly believe. I think he's still highly, highly thought of he's more highly thought of throughout the league than he is here in Indianapolis. So I think he'll hold on, even if Saturday gets the job. There's only 32 of these, and he's getting paid a lot of money. He's got the extension till 2026. He's got a young family. He's got kids in school. I think he's probably going to bite the bullet even if Saturday gets the job.
And at the risk of saying, I'm not asking this in a defiant manner or like in a, you know what I mean? But I wanted to give you the opportunity to elaborate on this. I don't disagree that Ballard probably is highly thought of outside of Indianapolis in NFL circles. But based on the amount of time he's been here, the lack of playmakers on the field, and the lack of postseason production, that's based on what?
Well, I think people will look at the quarterback situation, which was partly his doing. But I think they'll look at the quarterback situation and say, look, they haven't had any consistency at that position in 5, 6, 7 years. And I think they'll look at the fact that they had 7 Pro Bowl players last year. So he is clearly a good judge of talent. The problem has been that the talent judgments have not been good at the most important positions. You know, they still don't have an edge rusher. They still don't have a left tackle, although I thought Raymond played better as the season wore on. They still don't have that game-breaking wide receiver. So, but I think, you know, all those years Ballard was just doing okay in Indy, and every time you read one of those national pieces, he was one of the most highly thought of GMs in the league. So either he's got everybody else fooled or he really has the goods. We just haven't really seen it in Indianapolis. I mean, it's hard to argue with 4-13-1.
Again, he's Bob Kravitz from The Athletic here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Bob, obviously we know how Purdue's season played out last year when it came time to the NCAA tournament. But, you know, if you were to think back to your opinion on Purdue maybe entering February last year versus your opinion on them entering February this year, do you feel better about this year's team getting on a run versus maybe how you felt about last year's team?
I thought last year's team had a better chance of going deep in the NCAA tournament. I was completely shocked that they lost to St. Peter's. I thought with Trevion and with Jaden Ivey, I thought they had a deeper, better team last year. I think they'll make it to the second weekend. I don't doubt that, but I would have thought that last year's team had a better chance to go to the Final Four, at least the Elite Eight, than this year's team. I think as great as they've been this year, you still have those 2 young guards. And, man, if you get Edey in foul trouble, and it hasn't happened, but if you get Edey in foul trouble, that team is really in rough straits. So I think they're going to be good. They're clearly going to be a 1 seed. They're going to get to the second weekend. I had a higher ceiling for last year's team than I do this year's team.
I looked, the 2 guys that to me feel like they could be real wild cards for Purdue. And I agree with you about the young guards, although, Smith and Lawyer both they look wise beyond their years.
They do.
But that's obviously in fair play, right? The 2 guys to me that are really the X factors for Purdue are Kaufman-Renn and Caleb Furst, because, in a game where Zach Edey, and those guys are both really good players. Caleb Furst has really played well, I think, and has done a really good job of kind of sliding off of or adapting to having Edey taking up so much space. But there is going to be a game probably in March where suddenly Edey finds himself on the sidelines a lot. And at that point, I guess the question becomes, Bob, are those 2 guys, I think they're skilled enough to be able to answer that as a combo, but are they going to be familiar enough with that situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, like I was saying before, I worry that Zach's going to get a bad whistle at some point in the NCAA tournament, and that's going to put all the pressure on those 2 guys, especially Kaufman-Renn, who I thought looked pretty good they had Michigan State the other day. He looked pretty good, and he's starting to come along. Whether he's going to be at that level by March, I don't know, but that would be my greatest concern with Purdue. Is if Edey gets in foul trouble, and who can you rely on? And if Kaufman-Wren continues to develop, then maybe you don't have those fears.
Yeah, Purdue has gotten some nice moments from their supporting cast here as of late. But, yeah, if again, it hasn't happened all year, really, but if Edey were to get in foul trouble, that would be the biggest question. Bob, last one from me, and appreciate the time on this Monday morning. Again, Bob Kravitz from The Athletic with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Looking ahead to Saturday, 4 o'clock, ESPN, Indiana, Purdue. Assuming IU climbs into the rankings today, it will just be the third time since 2000 that they both will be ranked in a matchup. Your early thoughts on what you expect from really two of the hottest teams in college basketball.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, and I'll be there, and I just want to see TJD against Zach Edey, man. I mean, to me, excuse me, they're two player of the year candidates. Maybe the top two. I'm not sure, but they're certainly in the top five. I think Edey's number one at this point.
He's got to be the overwhelming favorite.
You got to think, and TJD is playing out of his mind lately. So I'm just really interested. I've got some calls out to some NBA people because I'm interested in what these guys look like as NBA prospects, especially Edey. Because you think about it, 20 years ago, Edey would have been the first pick in the draft. Now I have absolutely no idea how the NBA looks at him. I talked to Matt Painter about him as an NBA prospect about 2 weeks ago, and I'll have that in my column this weekend. But that's what I want to see more than anything else.
I would think late first might start to be in play now for Jackson Davis, and early second to mid-second for Edey at this point. And I'm in agreement with you. I mean, both of them have become – somebody asked me yesterday, Bob, which was a good question, when was the last time the state of Indiana had arguably the top two players in college basketball? And my first thought was it would have been 93 with Chaney at Indiana and Glenn Robinson as a sophomore at Purdue.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. But don't be surprised when that shows up in the column.
Yeah, there you go.
I did not know that, but that sounds about right. I mean, there's such different types of players playing the same position. It's just, styles make fights. It's going to be a really interesting mano-a-mano matchup between those two guys on Saturday.
Without question. Bob, enjoy that atmosphere. Thanks as always for hopping on with us, man.
My pleasure, guys. Be well.
That's Bob Kravitz right there on the Payless Liquors
I think he's
hotline.
in my camp.
Thanks, Bob. Appreciate it.
Bob.
As always, man. Thanks.
What do you think?
You're asking if he's in your camp?
Yeah, I think he's in my camp.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Bob's a great dude. Oh, yeah. Bob, yeah. He could.
Okay, so
Maybe
now
we'll
I've
set
got...
up a rival camp, like across a lake, and you guys can, like, go canoeing.
Who's in that?
I'm just saying.
We'll meet you guys at the buoy at midnight.
Yeah. Somebody spray painted our cabin.
Yeah, that was
that Kravitz camp over there. We'll get them back.
Interesting point Bob made about how, again, they're just two such different styles. I'm very curious to see how each will guard the other one. I remember last year in the matchup down in Bloomington, Trace Jackson Davis got into very quick foul trouble. And, Jake, remember, that was the Robert Finney half of his life.
That's right.
That kept Indiana in it, and, of course, Finney hits that shot. Do you put Race Thompson on Edey and you have Trace Jackson Davis come over and double? Try and keep Trace out of foul trouble?
Probably. Indiana's got some bigs with fouls to give, I guess. The thing about Edey
last year
is
they were playing Michael Durr,
yeah.
So I'm fascinated to see how those two are going to match up against each other. And obviously it's one of those, Jake, where probably both coaches think to themselves, those two will get however many points they're going to get. It's which supporting cast
I think the thing
can deliver more
about Edey that is so impressive, and I remember, Kevin, you're probably in this situation. When you were a kid playing basketball, you probably were a center, right? Because weren't you probably taller than most kids?
Yeah, but I was kind of a late grower, but
okay.
I certainly hear where you're going with that.
So I was always the tallest kid on most of my teams. So I had to play, and it was really weird because then I got to high school, and it's like, I was barely big enough to be a 2, right? But Dave Dunn was my coach at the Jordan Y, on the Jordan Y travel team. And he was teaching me low post play. And I wanted to be a guard. All my friends were guards. All the guys you watch on TV are guard, ball handling, shooting guards, right? And Dave Dunn said to me, Jake, you're the shark in the water. Why are you bringing the food down where the minnows can get it? I'll never forget that. I've never forgotten it. Tim Duncan was as good a player as I've ever seen at keeping the ball above the shoulders at all times where nobody else could get to it. And so when the ball went into Tim Duncan, it never came down like below his shoulders. And unless he had to create space for himself. But for big players to learn how to use their body to their advantage and not bring themselves down to the level of forwards or guards is a hard thing for guys to do. And Zach Edey does it as well as anybody in college basketball. When you watch him,
he's very coordinated.
Yes, and he's learned how to get rebounds by going straight up and down. He's learned how to play defense and block shots by moving straight up and down and not contouring his body. He doesn't get in foul trouble. I mean, most big guys get in foul trouble just by reaching and trying to get block shots, or he just doesn't. He literally, his body position and control is truly amazing. Not based on over agility, but on understanding of not having to move it any more than he needs to because of his size.
Shaka Smart, Jake, had a really interesting comment earlier in the season. Purdue played Marquette, in one of those November, I think, home games, and Mackey. And what Shaka was saying, what stood out to him most about Edey was, usually with big guys, you have got to create energy for them. It's probably a stereotype, but big guys can be a bit lazy. Or a big, hey, man, we need your energy. We need it on both ends of the floor. Zach Edey naturally creates that himself. And Shaka was saying how much when a big guy can dominate like that, can finish through traffic and ones, et cetera, your team feeds off that. I mean, how many times do you see a big guy get a big hoop and harm, and all of a sudden all his teammates are throwing their arms into his chest and celebrating with them? And Edey is able to do that. So, again, I feel like, and I did this when I was younger, if I were that tall, I'd be in the NBA. Like, everybody does that. And for Edey to be that tall, but to be as coordinated and skilled as he is really a special gift. And obviously Purdue staff, has developed that. And he is a great talent. And Trace Jackson-Davis, as you said, Jake, is playing like a first-team All-American. And if it weren't for Zach Edey right now, he'd be the overwhelming Big Ten.
I always get a kick out of this. I don't consider Shaq and Wilt to be great players because they were just taller than everybody else. Okay, I mean Barry Sanders wasn't a great running back. He was just faster than everybody.
If it was that easy, why is not every 7'3" person as dominant as?
What is your shirt you're wearing there?
A Cushnet. It was. It's the parent company for Titleist, the golf company.
What was that?
I said Cush. That's a slang term for something else.
A Cushnet is how Snoop Dogg keeps out the mosquitoes, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
But again, this shirt was inside out about 30 minutes ago.
Okay.
I was wondering your more solid jokes, by the way.
What's that?
I was wondering your more solid jokes, by the way.
Well, no, it's a net that actually isn't solid at all.
How crazy is that?
In my opinion, that sucked.
All the good stuff.
Okay.
How
I
crazy
blew it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is it that you have only had, potentially Saturday will be number 3. You've only had 3 ranked matchups between Indiana and Purdue since 2000.
I've thought about that, yeah. I mean, it usually is one or the other, right?
I mean, again, for my generation, Jake, we're not used to this. And Saturday is going to be, I thought College Game Day should be there. I don't know why College Game Day. Oh, yeah, we're going to Duke, Carolina. You can go to Duke, Carolina every year.
I asked the question.
College Game Day should be there. It's on ESPN.
I asked the question on Twitter last week. If you factor football and basketball, what's the most significant college rivalry in the country?
That was a great question. I could not come up with one.
And I was amazed at the number of people that were like, oh, Duke and Carolina. I'm like, Duke and Carolina, do they even play? I mean, they play each other in football. Who cares, right?
I would say no based off crowd size, but based off like how somewhat good the programs are, I would think USC and UCLA.
I know, but
But just atmosphere stink.
But USC basketball? I mean, I know they've had some good
they've
teams.
Had a couple runs.
They have.
Don't know. It's hard to get all four programs to be good.
I know. I think, quite frankly,
Indiana, Purdue football.
It's funny because it probably is Michigan, Ohio State. Just because they've had games where they've played in regional finals for a Final Four berth on the line, but like you just don't think. Yeah. But they are so consumed with football that it seems almost impossible to think of them
I don't think Alabama Auburn is doing it on the basketball floor. Alabama LSU.
I remember when Indiana Kentucky used to play each other in football, and it was like, it's kind of cool if they beat Kentucky because I hate Kentucky, but that's only in basketball. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just doesn't have the same sort of. By the way, I've noticed you guys haven't brought up Notre Dame's big win in basketball.
Oh, did they win?
Out of sight, out of mind.
Scotty doesn't have that on the sheet here. Who did they beat?
Well, they beat a blue blood. Helps the resume big time.
Okay, hold on. A blue blood program out of the ACC?
Yes,
I'm going to go with, now, has this school
dominated.
Has this school won a national championship in my lifetime?
Oh, certainly. Hell, I was going to say Addison's lifetime, but probably not, Mark.
North Carolina?
CARDS.
Oh, well. Buddy.
Shocking we missed
Buddy,
it.
I got news for you.
Louisville has won 2 games this season.
My camp beat Louisville.
They're so bad. Notre Dame was up like 25 on them.
It is amazing. It's amazing. They had to get Kenny Payne. Nobody was all excited.
You know Danny Manning's an assistant coach for them? They have 3 first-round picks on their coaching staff.
Seriously?
Mm-hmm. Kenny Payne, Danny Manning, and, gosh, I forget the third one. I think Milt Wagner was a third or second rounder.
DeJuan Wheat, is he there?
I mean, the game was so bad.
Walker?
It was trivia in the second half. It was just the announcers turned it into.
It is amazing. Trivia. I mean, I was always kind of a fan of Louisville basketball. I've always kind of liked them. It's amazing how things the bottom has fallen out there. I mean, that's a blue blood for sure, man.
It's a big win for the Irish, is what I was hoping to get.
Probably their last one. I'm looking at their last 9 games. Good Lord.
Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Well, let's just focus on the most recent. It's a winning streak.
Murderer's Row coming.
Got the week off. Wake Forest, big one on Saturday. If you guys want to come on.
Okay.
Pop quiz here in 5 minutes. 317-239-1070. Let's hit a morning check down.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by Ball State Basketball. Get your tickets at ballstatesports.com on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Hey, I'm going to begin with a little college basketball in the Checkdown. Just because I don't know if you folks heard this or not, but sound the bells, get the party ready, bang the pots and pans in the street. Notre Dame, 76-62 over Louisville. The Cardinals now 2-19 and 0-10 in the ACC. How is that possible?
They are horrific. It was unbelievable watching them. They're so bad. Notre Dame needs to try and get them on the schedule a few more
They have 2 wins. They had a 2-game win streak. Western Kentucky and Florida A&M. They've lost to Bellarmine. They've lost to Wright State. They've lost to Appalachian State. They've lost to Lipscomb.
Big one for Coach Bray there. I was thinking maybe bring back Bray after seeing that performance on Saturday from the Irish. Let's stick with college.
One more year. More year.
Let's stick with college basketball. We talked a lot about Purdue, of course. They beat Michigan State. That was impressive. Not only just Zach Edey, 38-12 speaks for itself, but Purdue got some great support from guys off the bench and dominated that one. On Saturday night, it was Indiana with a big win over Ohio State, another double-digit victory for IU. That is a 5-game win streak in the Big Ten. First time since 2016 IU has done that. It was a late run in the first half to kind of expand the lead and be in control for the rest of the way. Here was Mike Woodson on that.
And we go a little something like this. Hit it.
I came in out of the timeout. I'm like, guys, we just sitting here trading buckets, and we can't trade the rest of the game. Somebody's got to make a stand. And we came out of that timeout. And I talked about getting 3 or 4 stops, and we got a lot of stops and was able to get out and make plays in the open court offensively to get the cushion that we needed going in at halftime.
His voice does not in any way, shape, or form match what he looked like as a player. Like he kind of looks
I think
like
his voice now looks exactly like how he looks as a human.
I totally agree. But in terms of his voice, like when he was a player, like the thin 1980 Mike Woodson, it sounds like it doesn't in any way, shape, or form.
Jalen Hood-Schifino with 24, certainly impressing some NBA scouts with that one. At Maryland tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Any guess as to who's the head coach of the Maryland Terrapins?
Oh, boy.
By the way, Maryland of the year, they lose on the road and they win at home.
I can't recall. When did Turgeon leave?
We got a first-year head coach in Maryland.
So this is not an interim.
No.
I'm going to say like some guy that they hired out of like Maryland, Baltimore County.
Speaking of Louisville, there is a Louisville connection here.
Really? Oh,
I think it was his father.
Oh, I was going to say the guy that was the interim at Louisville for a while there. Scotty, who's the coach at Maryland? Scott Johnson. If Scotty doesn't know, then I really don't feel bad. While Scotty's thinking about that, I'll tell you that the Pacers yesterday at Memphis, 112-100.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, that was nice. That is a 3-game losing streak for the Pacers. They are back in action Thursday in the Fieldhouse taking on the Lakers. Scotty, you come up with an answer?
Big East coach last year.
Was he fired from his previous job and this was a safe spot for him, or he left for Maryland?
Where did the St. Peter's coach go to?
Seton Hall.
And where did Seton Hall's coach go?
Who was Seton Hall's coach last year, Scotty?
The son of Ralph Willard, Kevin Willard.
You know what? I think I did know that. Okay. Good call there. Super Bowl set, Philadelphia and Kansas City after the Chiefs 23-20 over the Bengals yesterday. The Eagles 31-7 winners. This is the 4th Super Bowl appearance, obviously, for the Eagles. It is the 5th for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I'm still disappointed they didn't go full Wildcat. I wanted McCaffrey and Debo full Wildcat
They
the rest of the game. How about McCaffrey throwing the pass? Did you see that?
Yeah.
It landed about 20 yards away from anybody on the field there. Yeah, that was tough to watch, but the AFC game was terrific. Boy, those Bengals receivers, man.
You know the one thing I'll say about this Josh Johnson that was 7 of 13 for 74 yards, left with a concussion.
He was really 7 of 13?
Yeah.
Boy, I must have saw all the incompletions.
He must be, honestly, now there's two ways to look at this. He either is like an incredibly talented dude who's a bad locker room guy, and that's why he's played for like 37 teams, or he's just a really good dude.
Oh, no,
that
I think
people like having him around.
Well, that, and he's a brilliant offensive mind to be able to learn all these playbooks in such short order.
Totally.
So 2015, Andrew Luck gets hurt week 3. He's out week 4 and 5. The Colts literally signed Josh Johnson. I want to say it was either Thursday or Friday of those games. Brought him in to be Hasselbeck's backup. And, I mean, he's pretty much done that in like a dozen stops around the league.
I mean, the places, okay, and I know we did this the other day, and I know a lot was made of it yesterday, but I'm just going to do it here as fast as I can. You ready? Teams of service of Josh Johnson, who was a 5th-round pick in 2008 out of...
Where my uncle went, USD, baby.
That's right, San Diego. Tampa Bay Bucks, San Francisco 49ers, Sacramento Mountain Lions, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, back to San Francisco, Cincinnati Bengals again, New York Jets, Indianapolis Colts, Buffalo Bills, Baltimore Ravens, New York Giants, Houston Texans, Oakland Raiders, Washington Redskins, San Diego Fleet, Detroit Lions, LA Wildcats, back to the 49ers, New York Jets, Baltimore Ravens, Denver Broncos, and back to the 49ers. I mean, that's unbelievable.
Him dropping that snap, yeah. I mean, come on.
He was the XFL passer rating leader in 2020.
Oh.
He's still only 36
Didn't they only
years
play
old,
like 2
too.
games?
PJ Walker was that, wasn't he, for a little bit?
4-time all PFL.
Pioneer, right? Butler's league. Wasn't Butler in the Pioneer League?
That is correct. I remember seeing Harbaugh coaching a game at Butler. 2-time Pioneer League Offensive Player of the Year and 3-time AA All-American.
Sounds like the roads are a bit dicey in Hamilton County on this Monday morning. It looks ugly outside again. Our commute in was not too bad, but for those that are just waking up or haven't gotten in their car yet, just watch out a little
My
bit.
camp will have space heaters, just so we all know, and plenty of firewood.
It's not very outdoorsy then.
Gosh, a little bit soft.
Flat
S'mores
screen
tonight.
TV for every tent.
Do some s'mores on the space heaters if you don't mind here. Scotty, how's the pop quiz look? Okay, it's doable here on a Monday morning. 317-239-1070, pop quiz time.
Guys, solve your ED today with an intimacy guarantee. Only at the Indianapolis Men's Clinic. If you don't perform, you don't pay. Call the Indianapolis Men's Clinic at 999-9000. 999-9000.
Hey, it's Dan Dockich here. You know, for years on my radio show, I asked people to help me out. I needed a treatment. Aches and pains. I couldn't lose weight. Well, guess what? I found a solution. I did. Affinity Whole Health. All you've got to do is go to feelgreatindy.com and look into it for yourself. The testosterone program that I am on has been a godsend. I've missed no workouts in 6 months. No more aches and pains. And I have lost weight. Feelgreatindy.com is the place to go. Get started just like I did.
Texting enrolls you in recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The patented key ingredient is something called Testofen, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again. At work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text Sizzle to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text SIZZLE to 42424. That's Sizzle to 42424.
Bowling, 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 keep them balls a-rolling. Bowling, bowling, bowling. Royal Pin.
The U.S. Open is returning to Royal Pin Woodland. Start the major PBA tournament off with Bowl with the Pros on January 29th with 2 squad times available, 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Bowlers of all ages are guaranteed to bowl with 6 of the PBA's top professionals competing in the U.S. Open. Don't stop there. Get your tickets to watch the bowlers compete for the major title and Green Jacket live on Fox. 2 shows available. Visit bowl.com/US Open to sign up to Bowl with the Pros and get your tickets to the live finals. Or call Woodland at 317-844-4099. That's 317-844-4099.
Royal Pin, bowling, bowling. Royal Pin, bowling.
The Ride with JMV.
Alec Pierce, wide receiver with us. You allow yourself to watch what's going on in this coaching search?
Yeah, I haven't really followed it too much. I mean, I'll see like on Twitter, Instagram, don't post a guy that's been, but I feel like it's been a ton of guys, and I think I've lost track of all the cannons, and I've probably only seen like half of them come through. But yeah, it seems like they're doing their due diligence, and I trust the people that are making the decision to make the right decision.
The Ride with JMV.
Weekdays 3 to 6
on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan. Have you studied? Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with Kevin and Query. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
Thought we might get a tennis question on the Pop Quiz. You see Novak Djokovic, Jake? His 10th Australian Open title over the weekend.
Pretty impressive, right? I'm telling you, high-level tennis is awesome.
Nadal and Djokovic, 22 apiece. Roger Federer, 20 apiece.
Who was your favorite tennis player growing up?
Probably the tail end of Sampras. Sampras Agassi. But again, Jake, I mean, I've lived in such a bad era for United States male tennis. Awful era,
I mean,
really.
I grew up in a fabulous era of men's tennis in general, but very few of the stars were American.
Oh yeah, I mean my era. I mean,
Boris Becker was fabulous. Ivan Lendl was fabulous.
I mean, I liked Federer the most out of him, Nadal, and Djokovic. I always thought Federer and Tiger were friends, so therefore I liked Federer.
Were they? I think Nadal seems like a cool guy.
Is Federer still going?
I was a big fan of Gabriela Sabatini, as we know, but Chris Evert also. Yeah. But Martina Navratilova, though, was unbelievable to watch.
Google search to start your Monday. All right, let's hit up the pop quiz. Number 1 through 8, Jake.
You know, she had a perspiration issue, Gabriela Sabatini, just so you know. Number 3.
Who we got, Mark?
Boz.
Boz? B-O-Z? Like Brian Bosworth?
I assume.
What's up, Boz? Boz?
Okay.
No, wait a minute. I knew a Boz that used to hang out in Broderpool. Was it that Boz? I'd like to know if it's that Boz.
fullback back in the day.
Well, he's gone now.
Mark, throw us another one.
All right. All right. You want to pick a different number?
4.
All right. Tim 2, because we have 2 Tims. Tim the second.
Boy, this is a good start to this.
Well, why
Monday.
why does he have to be Tim the second?
Because he's the second one that called in.
What's up, Tim?
What's up?
How we doing?
Good. You?
Good, Tim. Have you driven this morning?
Yes, sir.
How is it out there?
It's not bad.
Okay, and what part of town?
I live in Montgomery County.
Oh, nice.
That's Crawfordsville, right?
Yes, sir.
Is Turkey Run State Park? Is any of that come down that far south?
No, I'm about 30 minutes from that.
Okay.
What's the best food place in Crawfordsville, Tim? I got some buddies that went to Wabash. We would go to the Applebee's, though.
The Euro place basically right across from Applebee's.
Okay, all right. I'm going to note
It's
that
about
down there.
40 square foot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Tim, do you want to be in my camp?
Your camp?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, Tim, a lot of people have responded the same way you just did.
Tim, these athletes, they always say, well, the sources within Myles Turner's camp say, so I just decided I need a camp. But it doesn't sound like you'd be excited about being in my camp.
I didn't say I'd be excited, but I'll do it.
Yeah. It's a lot of stroking of the ego.
Don't, Tim, try not to be so excited. Tim, how old a fella are you?
51.
Well, there we go. You're the class of 90 in high school or 89?
90.
Okay.
Tim, are you a Purdue fan residing in that part of the state?
IU.
Okay, are you excited for Saturday?
Yeah, I honestly don't watch it much anymore. I haven't watched it since they stay 1 year and leave.
Okay.
I hear you.
Fair enough.
All right, Jake, you want to throw number 1 out?
All right, here we go, Tim. If you were an Indiana fan, you might recall actually a guy that once, I believe, had 12 of 12 from the free throw line in the 1992 NCAA tournament in Boise against Indiana. Giannis, which is the answer for question number 1. Giannis scored 50 points in the Bucks' win over the Pelicans last night. He scored 30 of his 50 points in the paint, making the 10th time in his career that he has scored 30 points in the paint in a game. Since the NBA started keeping track of play-by-play in the 96-97 season, only one other player has at least 10 games in his career with 30 points in the paint. Is it Kevin Garnett, Tim Duncan, Yao Ming, or Shaquille O'Neal?
It started in 96. Boy, you'd think it'd be Shaq.
Okay.
All right. Number 2, Tim. The Eagles will face the Chiefs in Super Bowl 57 in 13 days. Patrick Mahomes will be starting his 3rd Super Bowl in the past 4 seasons. 3 quarterbacks in NFL history have started at least 3 Super Bowls in 3 consecutive seasons. Jim Kelly did it 4 straight in the early 90s, while the latest to do it was Tom Brady. Who was the first? Roger Staubach, Bob Greasy, Terry Bradshaw, Joe Montana.
He's described those heroes, by the way.
I know it's not Montana.
Those heroes you get can be like this guy's name.
Not the school that Tim likes, right?
Correct.
Greasy.
Okay. Question number 3. Super Bowl 57 features a battle of brothers as the Chiefs tight end Jason Kelce goes against the Eagles center Travis Kelce. Not including the Harbaughs, who were competing coaches in Super Bowl 47, who are the only brothers to face each other in Super Bowl history. Would it be Champ and Boss Bailey, Michael and Martellus Bennett, Tiki and Rondé Barber, or the Kelces are the first?
I thought the Barbers were both in NFC. I'll say the Kelces are first.
Okay.
All right, Tim. Joe Burrow saw his perfect road record in the NFL playoffs come to an end with the Bengals' loss in KC. Burrow had, I guess, no longer. Burrow entered the game with a 3-0 road mark in the postseason, named the only NFL quarterback since 1950 to win his first 4 road playoff games. Tom Brady, Danny White, Jake Delhomme, or Ben Roethlisberger?
Roethlisberger.
Really kind of cover the gamut with those 4 answers there, Scotty. That was a good one.
Question number 5 for you. On this day in 1971, the UCLA Bruins beat UC Santa Barbara at Pauley Pavilion. That was the start of UCLA's famous NCAA record 88-game win streak that ended in South Bend a little less than 3 years later. Who was the last team to beat UCLA before they started their 88-game win streak? Was it, in fact, also Notre Dame, Loyola of Chicago, USC, or Oregon?
Obviously, I guess USC.
Who's Kevin's favorite basketball team, Tim?
Notre Dame.
We got to give it to him, right?
Oh, yeah.
Apologetic.
Yeah, we'll
it's a Monday.
Whammy! Yeah. We'll give it to him.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, let's see how Tim did. Giannis did a bunch of things since the NBA started keeping track of play-by-play in 96, 97. Only one other player has at least 10 games in his career with 30 points in the paint. He said Shaq.
And that, I'll tell you what, Shaq had 36 against Indiana in the NCAA tournament in 92, and he was 12 of 12 from the free throw line. Like, no one would ever guess that.
I forgot about that part.
It's the last 12 free throws he ever hit, actually. Bob Greasy was correct for question number 2.
That is correct.
Not including the Harbaughs, competing coaches in Super Bowl 47, the only brothers to face off against each other in a Super Bowl. The Kelces will do.
Okay. Notre Dame was correct for question number 5, which brings it all to number 4. Joe Burrow saw his perfect road record in the NFL playoffs come to an end with the Bengals' loss in Kansas City. Entering the game with a 3-0 mark in the postseason, named the only NFL quarterback since 1950 to win his first 4 road playoff games. Kevin, the answer was Jake Delhomme.
You blew it!
The Raging Cajun, baby.
Bourbon always singing about it.
Get to come back tomorrow. You don't even get a lousy copy of our home game. You're a complete loser.
Patriots, right?
Is that Vinatieri's first game winner? Second?
First game winner was against the Rams, wasn't it?
I thought one was against the Panthers in Houston. You know what I thought was a huge play yesterday, Jake, was the punt return by Sky Moore.
Yeah, that was big.
That punt itself.
He was a guy.
That's the guy that I wanted over Alec Pierce.
I think a lot of people liked him, right?
And he really hasn't had that good of a year. He's kind of been. It's just an odd wide receiver depth chart that they have in Kansas City. Remember, he muffed one here in Indy, and Nance. I thought that was one of the few times that Nance and Romo were actually on it yesterday. Nance set it up of, he's muffed 3 punts this year and has earned Andy Reid's trust back, et cetera, et cetera.
And didn't Romo say, well, that's why he's back there, because he...
Yeah, and he had a huge return there. Could have been blocking the back, I thought, on that. But, yeah, that set him up in the Mahomes scramble and penalty, and there you go. All right, we'll do one final time here. Kevin and Corey.
Why does We Grow Hair Indy have the best hair transplant results? Because they have the best technology. And I'm living proof of it. Hey, this is JMV. We Grow Hair Indy has the technology that restored both my bald spot in my crown area and PRP to keep my hairline and non-transplanted hair looking good. This year, they can restore your bald spot and your hairline. Call 317-522-2995. 317-522-2995. Here's Darren Andrews to explain.
Having that strong hairline again completely changes the way you see yourself. It makes a huge difference. A lot of people think the crown cannot be transplanted. It's actually an area of specialty for us with our multi-unit hair grafting.
My hair is going to grow the rest of my life, and that's exactly what I want. Call 317-522-2995 to schedule your free evaluation. That's 317-522-2995, and check out my results at WeGrowHairIndy.com, the gold standard in hair restoration.
Hey, it's Big Joe for your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer, Reinhardt Heating and Cooling. Kevin Reinhardt says this family-owned business has a lot of pride in their work.
Danny started the business back in 1986 here in Danville, and we take a lot of pride in the town of Danville with a lot of repeat customers, people that I've known basically all my life. And it's just nice to continue to do the service that they trust for over 30 years.
You can trust Reinhardt Heating and Cooling, 317-745-4526. Reinhardt is your trusted local independent American Standard dealer.
Ray Magliozzi here for eBay Motors. Okay, easy now. You're teaching your kid how to parallel park. Ouch! Turns out he likes to do it by feel. Don't worry, eBay Motors has bumpers, taillights, trunk lids, license plate holders, 122 million parts. Pull up just a little bit. And headlights. They've got lots of headlights. Get the right parts at the right prices. eBay Motors. Let's ride.
Get the absolute best price on cars, trucks, and SUVs at Tom Wood Used Cars of Greenwood. Shop for your family cars, gas savers, work trucks, and commuter cars. Buy with confidence at Tom Wood Used Cars of Greenwood, as most vehicles come with complimentary lifetime powertrain coverage. That's no-cost lifetime powertrain coverage over and above the manufacturer's coverage. It's all at Tom Wood Used Cars of Greenwood, the home of guaranteed credit, located at Stop 18 and US 31 in Greenwood.
It's all good at Tom Wood.
The Pacers are back home to take on the Los Angeles Lakers. Thursday evening at 6:30 on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
It's Kevin and Query on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Myles Turner going to put pen to paper on his contract extension coming up later today. Jake, I get crediting a guy for all of a sudden seeing his contract rise to $35 million this year is probably, whatever. A bit odd, but if Myles Turner plays out this contract, that's going to be a decade in Indiana. Today's NBA, you don't often see guys play a decade in one place.
Yeah.
And the Pacers have certainly made it known at times with Myles Turner that they've been skeptical about his future here. Former lottery pick with no ties to the area. Kudos to Myles Turner for continuing to be a good pro throughout all of this, because there's been a lot of reasons and a lot of guys, I think, around the NBA that would have reacted very differently to how Turner's reacted to all of this. And again, the money's great, but
I think he just knows that his value here is as good as it's going to be anywhere.
But again, some guys have too much ego and
Fair.
won't even want to admit that.
Fair.
And I agree. And I think, the 2-year extension, so tack on 2 more years, so through 2025, as we said to Bob Kravitz earlier, Jake, and you've harped on this point a lot, this is the best place for him to then cash in at 29 years old, coming up in that 2025 free agency, because he is playing with Halliburton. He does have some level of usage here in Indiana that he might not have in other places. So, again, he changed agencies. I thought that was, oh boy, I don't, how all that's going to play out. And $35 million this year, and then 21 and 20 each of the next 2 years for Myles Turner.
Here's a question for you: When is Super Bowl Media Day? I'm going to brace yourself for a Jake Query old man yelling at clouds things.
Monday, week from today.
A week from today.
I was going to guess week from today or tomorrow. Out west, are they doing it at night? Are they still doing it on TV?
All I know is this: there is nothing in sports that has become more played out than Super Bowl Media Day. I guess now they kind of scaled it back again, but like for a while there, it was like, oh, this is hilarious. Like the American Idol rejects are interviewing, the TikToks and that kind of stuff is kind of
the TikToks.
Well, no, I'm not saying TikTok. I'm saying like all the videos that people do.
Oh,
the TikTok videos. The
Ohio State University.
The nonstop access now to those videos has kind of watered that stuff down or made it irrelevant. I mean, back then, 15 or 20 years ago, a lot of times the only times that you saw people being able to do like wacky, fun things was at Super Bowl Media Day. And so players were participating. You always had the, oh, look, we're going to take like this funny guy that's going to dress up in a bridal outfit and ask Tom Brady if he'll marry her sister, and all that. Now that stuff, you see it 100 times a day.
Yeah, that shtick in general, I think it's just a bit much. I do find Super Bowl Media Day beneficial, Jake, from a media standpoint. If
I get it. I mean,
if you are the Lafayette Television,
correct,
and you want to go out to the Super Bowl, that's your chance to get George Karlaftis one-on-one.
You're right. And you see a lot of that, right?
A lot of hometown stories.
Correct.
If you are the Eagles quality control coach and you're from whatever, Bedford, Indiana, and a TV outlet wants to get your coach.
There is no, I'll tell you this.
That's where I find it beneficial.
I don't know that I have ever, the Indy 500 is pretty big, right? But in terms of like absolute just cluster mass hysteria, cattle barn level coverage. There's nothing like a Super Bowl. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, I went to Super Bowl Media Day here, and they had that in Lucas Oil Stadium, and boy, just going through security to get in there. Gosh, yeah, that was
it's crazy.
That was quite the ordeal.
I mean, I remember,
as you would expect. I don't think anyone's acting like, oh yeah, we just let anybody into the Super Bowl, but that was it took me about an hour and 45 minutes to get through security.
The Super Bowl 34 was the first one I went to in Atlanta, the Rams Titans. And the auxiliary overflow media was in an upper section, section 635 or whatever, in the corner of the stadium. And I remember, literally in the first play of the fourth quarter, everybody getting up and starting to leave. And I'm like, where's everybody going? Fear of missing out here, right? And they're like, oh, you got to start heading down now. If you want to do post game, you got to start heading down there now because it'll take the entire fourth quarter to get down there with everybody. I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was walking down the ramps to get to the bottom of the Georgia Dome as Kevin Dyson was extending his arm to try to, and Mike Jones tackled him to in the game. It took that long to get down into the areas. I mean, it was crazy.
I'm trying to think. I was still up in the press box when Brady threw that Hail Mary that Gronk almost caught here in the Giants Super Bowl win. And for some reason, I think I still made it down there, which, knowing how those Lucas Oil Stadium elevators can operate, that was a bit surprising now that I think back on it.
$720 million, one elevator.
But yeah, Arizona for the Super Bowl coming up in 13 days. Again, Colts head coaching search updates. Reportedly, Rich Bisaccia, a special teams coordinator from the Packers, most known for his interim stint leading the Raiders to the playoffs last season. I know it's a cliche word, but Chris Ballard and Jim Irsay are obsessed with the leader. That's what you hear a lot about Bisaccia. So him, reportedly today, Shane Steichen, the Eagles OC. Eagles are in the Super Bowl. Shane can still talk to the Colts this week on the Super Bowl off week. He's already met with Indy once. He does call the plays for Nick Sirianni. He is on the list for this week, reportedly. And then now the question becomes, will DeMeco Ryans actually listen to Indianapolis? What about Brian Callahan with Cincinnati? What about Eric Bieniemy with Kansas City? Callahan and Bieniemy have already interviewed once. Their seasons are over, of course, so they can interview at any point. But those are the things to watch this week on the Colts head coaching search.
Somebody just sent me saying, oh, this girl will definitely be at Media Day. She's funny. And I'm not denying that she's pretty talented, but the girl that does the fake NFL meeting Zoom calls, is that still a thing?
Oh, Angie something or other?
Annie.
Is it Annie?
Yeah.
Yeah, she does a good job.
Well, she does, but is that still a thing, though, or are people kind of over that? Has it kind of run its course?
Like Zoom calls or
her videos
doing that?
Her videos.
Oh, I feel like I still see her.
Again, I know she still does them. I'm saying, do people still enjoy them, or are people
some people do.
It's played out by now. I think it's kind of played out, right?
I can't say I follow her. I just see people with a retweet here or there on it. Kind of a quiet Monday. Usually we've got Pacer games on Monday. Nothing until Thursday. Again, Indiana at Maryland tomorrow night. Purdue hosting Penn State. I think it's an early one on Wednesday. I want to say it's 6:30 for the Boilermakers. Everybody have a great Monday. We'll talk to you tomorrow.